very well, please take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button. And let's take a moment to talk about Freemasonry. Hello, Linking Atlas. How's it going? Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Just setting off a quick note. This is going to be more of a hangout live stream as opposed to specific topics. Although I did want to discuss a little bit about what we have coming up with Square and Compass Promotions in the next few days. I'm glad things are going fine. I hope you're looking forward to the holiday season. It's almost Christmas. We're almost there. Or if you celebrate Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah. Whatever it is you celebrate, I hope that you're having a great day. Also, I hope that you are going to be spending the holiday season with friends and family. Merry Christmas to you as well. And thank you for being here. We're just going to wait. We're going to wait to see who joins, who wants to chat about Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear it. Let me just... get this going, and thank you everybody for all of the help you've been giving to my stream over the past few days, weeks, months, heck, years for that matter. The fact that we are now over 3,000 subs is incredible. We're actually at 3,074, which is pretty incredible to see. Getting very close to my necessary 4,000 watch hours to get monetized through advertisements, which is also pretty incredible. So yeah, things are going wonderful. And that's thanks to everybody. So thank you so much for that. Do you think electricity and technology will end by 2030, 2040? I do not. I mean, anything's possible, I suppose, but I can't imagine that would be the case. It would shock me if technology were to end. I think technology is going to grow, which does actually make me quite happy in a lot of ways because I'm pro technology. I think technology is pretty wonderful. It's been nothing but good to me. So it'd be very hard for me to, want to complain about it. I don't think that would be very appropriate. I try to be good vibes, believe me. I don't always succeed by any means, but I do try my best. How's it going with you, Linking Atlas, though? What do you think? I think technology is going to change a lot in the next 20, 30, 40 years. I can only imagine what it's going to look like. Ethan, I am from Canada, Windsor, Ontario. What about yourself? American. Welcome from America. I love America, greatest country in the world, or second greatest country in the world, excuse me, greatest neighbor in the world. Canada, in my opinion, is the greatest country in the world, but in part because we have the greatest neighbor in the world. So that's my humble view on that. Hello from Romania. Welcome from Romania. I love Romania. I say that I shouldn't. I've never been to Romania. However, I know some Masons from Romania. Great people, great dudes. Freemasonry in Romania is actually doing pretty well. So, at least to my understanding, it is. I understand there's a few different kind of grand lodges and et cetera, et cetera. But I understand there's some pretty decent Romanian Freemasonry. It's something I need to look into more, though, to be honest. I agree, we are like brothers. And one of the greatest parts about being Canadian is having such great brothers. So, or having such a great brother, I should say. Um, you remind me of, I don't know who that is, but I'll take it. Um, My father's a bully. I'm very sorry that your dad is a bully. That sucks. I know it can be really hard with family sometimes, but I think you're gonna be okay. I wish you the best of luck in your pre-med exams, and I hope you find somebody to speak to. I'm doing well, Dream Seeker. How are you doing? Canada should definitely not be the 51st state. Like I said, look, I love Canada. I love the States, but I'm very happy for Canada to be its own country. I would not want to be part of the United States. I'm happy for Canada to be sovereign. Yes, Dad, you get used to it. By the way, Dad, I sent you um, all of your everything you need, your Christmas gift. It's in the mail. You should get it in a couple of days. Both your Christmas gift and your Patreon gift as well. So you should be getting both very shortly. Our Westminster system is great, trans alien. I would disagree with you quite strongly on that. I think I personally, I've always said this, and by the way, I know I'm talking about Freemasonry, but it doesn't stop me from talking about other things as well. I personally think our system is maybe the greatest system in the world, the parliamentary democracy system, or constitutional monarchy. I actually think they work quite well, personally. No, you cannot, Ethan. No, you cannot. We're definitely not anybody's little brother. We're bigger than you. Maybe not in terms of number of people, but in terms of landmass, we're a lot bigger. And okay, Ethan, I think you're trolling a little bit, so let's put you in a timeout. Phew. Phew, excuse me, sneezing away. Linking Alice, sorry, I've been busy doing a couple things. You're missing my comments. I do not, yeah, sorry if I have missed any of your comments. Just keep putting them in. I'll do my best to get to them as soon as I can. What's my viewpoint on China? It's a very broad question. I mean, I'm not sure. From a Masonic perspective, I'm fascinated by, Freemasonry in China, specifically in Hong Kong and in Hong Kong and in Macau. And the history of it is really, really cool. So that is something that fascinates me without question. beyond that, I'm always going to be a little bit more concerned when it comes to kind of their political system and communism. I'm a much bigger fan of capitalism, but it's not something I know a ton about, so it's hard for me to say. Linking Atlas, how many people live in the States? There's about 300, if I recall correctly, 360 million, I think. I might be getting that number wrong. Trans alien, as we're just hanging out chatting, why constitutional republic over constitutional monarchy? What are the benefits to being a constitutional republic that you don't see otherwise? Because I will say, constitutional republic is actually very, very rare, right? America is one of the few countries to actually do it and do it successfully. $330 to $360 million. So I was close. How is Freemasonry in Islamic countries? That's a great question, No Name. It really depends on which country you're speaking of. For example, in Morocco, to my knowledge, Freemasonry is actually pretty prevalent, or at least pretty well accepted. Freemasonry exists in Jordan. Like it's official, it's allowed, though to my understanding, culturally, the people of Jordan, it can be looked upon a little bit suspiciously or with suspicion. Freemasonry is banned or outlawed in Iran, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, and in UAE, although, to my knowledge, there can be some underground Freemasonry therein, or at least there's certainly Masons therein. So it's one of those things where it really depends on the country. Historically, um, there have been countries, like I said again, like in Iran, Freemasonry was actually flourishing in Iran until the Iranian Revolution. I can't remember what year that was. I think 78, 77. And as a consequence of that, what happened is you ended up with what's known as the Grand Lodge of Iran in exile, um, where, to my knowledge, they primarily meet actually out of Los Angeles. A lot of Masons who are from Iran or who had family in Iran or who fled Iran during the revolution started meeting in America. And they still love their country, obviously, as whatever the political situation is. I'm a firm believer you should still love your country, but they're no longer able to meet in Iran due to it being outlawed there. So it's one of those things where everything is kind of a unique situation. It's interesting. When I traveled to Dubai, where Freemasonry is illegal, I was debating whether or not to bring my dues cards with me to wear my Masonic shirts, because I was told that Freemasonry in Iran is kind of looked very down upon. But I brought my dues cards with me. I wore my Masonic shirts, and it was no issue. So there you go. I think a lot of those things, it is my hope to see Freemasonry more flourishing in Islamic countries and in the Middle East in general, to see it become more accepted mainstream in Jordan, to see it existing in Saudi Arabia, Iran, etc., etc. I think that would be wonderful to see. Sometimes that happens, Rondo. Sometimes that happens. Chinese Freemasonry, that happens. Iran, that happens. K013, hello. Thank you for being here. Please hit the like and subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. Dream Seeker, I mean, all I saw of Dubai was the airport and the airport hotel, but it was a beautiful airport, I'll say that. And what I saw from the window of the airplane looked quite nice. I've always talked about this. One of my favorite kind of memories of Masonic travel, um, is being in a hotel room and looking up at the roof, or at the ceiling, I should say, and seeing an arrow pointing whatever direction, but basically an arrow pointing towards Mecca with a note saying, like, this way is Mecca. I thought that was really, really cool. Made me realize, like, I'm in a new place, I'm in a new country, I'm somewhere I've never been before. I thought that was awesome. I want to join the arrow. The arrow is pointing to like the corner of the room. I mean, whatever direction Mecca is from Dubai. I want to join Freemasons here in Texas, says Chris, or Christ Enlightenment. Awesome. I hope that you do so. I mean, there's a lot of great Freemasons in Texas. I've been to Texas many times. To be one, ask one. Find your local Masonic lodge. Make sure they're affiliated with the Grand Lodge of Texas, and express your interest in joining. If you Google Grand Lodge of Texas, the legitimate website should pop up first. And you can put your address in and your postal code, and it'll show you where to go. Um, would it matter if I was Rwand? Freemasonry welcomes men of all different faiths and ethnicities. Thank you, Kay, for liking and subscribing. It's greatly appreciated. No name. It is not true. We in Freemasonry do not worship the devil. Of course, Evelyn B. I've sat in lodge with many African Americans, with black members, with European, Asian, white, black. Never sat in lodge with any green members. If I were sitting with any green members, I would tell them to go to the hospital because they're probably poisoned. But every other color and every other ethnicity. There is, for African Americans, a Masonic organization called Prince Hall, which is a wonderful group. They were initially founded specifically for black men. Now they welcome members of all races as well. But you can join either or. Some African Americans prefer to join Prince Hall because of its historical connections to the black community. A lot of times they'll have great grandfathers who are members, but you can join either. Both are excellent parts of the Masonic experience. I do not watch Transformers. When I was a kid, but it's been a long time since I've been a kid. Freemasonry is not the Illuminati. They're different organizations. Rwand K6S. So what are Freemasons about, really? Great. I mean, you need to believe in a supreme being to be a Freemason. Certainly, if you're a Christian, that would be a supreme being, and you're welcome to be part of Freemasonry. That's not the exclusive requirement. You need to be over the correct age. In the States, it's usually 18. You know, you need to be a good person, you need to be accepted, all that jazz. Going back, so what is Freemasons about, really? So there's two answers. First, within Freemasonry, everybody has their own purpose behind it, their own reason for being a Freemason. That's one of the best parts about being a Freemason, right? Is everybody has their own purpose and understanding within it, and to it, and for it, and why they join. But at its core, what Freemasonry is about is the same thing as what any organization or group is about: the desire to belong to something bigger than oneself. Right? When you look back at Aristotle, when Aristotle said man is a political animal, he didn't mean that, human beings are naturally Republican or naturally Democrat or naturally left or naturally right. What he meant, rather, was that within human, to be human, part of that means we have a desire to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We want to be part of groups, organizations, or belong to things greater than ourselves. And so Freemasonry helps us fulfill that desire. So Freemasons Black Ball. Sorry, Evelyn. I've been to many votes. I've been to many ballots, it's called. I've never seen anybody blackballed, quote unquote, which means denied, admission into Freemasonry because of their race. So I'd like to be fat at all times, because if I'm fat at all times, it means I'm eating well and resting well. So yes, but that is not my purpose. There's no such thing as a monthly subscription Mason. I mean, there may be some Masons who pay their dues monthly, but it's rare. It's almost always yearly. Well, yeah, Rondo, I mean, is correct. Prince Hall started because a gentleman by the name of Prince Hall applied to join a Masonic lodge in Boston. He was denied due to his race, because unfortunately, whatever the Masonic principles and ideals are, that is not going to stop, unfortunately, the prejudices that live in the hearts of man to come out sometimes. Freemasons are human beings, which means that all of the both good and bad qualities that exist within humans exist within Freemasons. Having said that, it was interesting. The whole history of Prince Hall is fascinating, right? Because eventually Prince Hall was able to join a Masonic lodge out of the Grand Lodge of Ireland, actually in a military camp in Boston. Then he chartered his own lodge out of the Grand Lodge of England, which at the time was called African Lodge Number 1. And initially, I don't know if it was ever officially segregated, but certainly the idea behind it was a home for black men who wanted to be part of Freemasonry but were denied admittance into the lodge. And then it kind of grew from there. It spread to Canada, spread around the world. It's not exclusive to North America. It's present in all 50 states, plus I think every province as well. African Lodge 459. Initially, it was called African Lodge Number 1, I think. It got renamed later. So yeah, it's a really cool history. I do think sometimes the Grand Lodge of Ireland and the Grand Lodge of England don't get enough credit for their assistance in helping Prince Hall Freemasonry get off the ground and become a really wonderful organization and a very valuable part of our Masonic family. But obviously the primary credit goes to Prince Hall. Christ Enlightenment, I'm assuming it's Christ Enlightenment, Christ. It's the difference, I mean, there follows a shadow between the ideals and the implementations, right? So, Freemasonry, and this goes back to the Regius poem, the Anderson Constitutions. On its face, Freemasonry, the way it's written and talked about in its laws and constitutions, should welcome men and should have always welcomed men of any race. Black, Asian, whatever it is. However, prejudices were such that in many jurisdictions, they set certain rules or certain ways to disallow black people from joining. Because unfortunately, Masons aren't immune from the prejudices of their time. There were some lodges which were, much better at following the spirit of Freemasonry and following the basic tenets of it, but there were many lodges that would exclude black people from joining. In some cases, they would exclude them on the basis of the idea that if you were a black person in America, you either were or may have been a slave at some point. Therefore, they would say, well, you're not quote unquote free, and you could be joining out of coercion from whoever owns you, and so we're not going to let you in. That was a common way they avoided allowing black people to join. And and sometimes they would just deny them admittance and not give the reason. And sometimes they would be honest about it, right? Like with the Prince Hall situation. So it's unfortunate, but Masons are not immune from the prejudices of the time. Having said that, I will say, relatively speaking, Freemasonry was actually very liberal when it came to admission compared to other groups. They were one of the first groups to really welcome, for example, Indigenous peoples and First Nations peoples into their organizations. Um, Certainly in Canada, you saw that when First Nations people were being excluded from many public services and many public groups and civic organizations. Freemasonry actually was one of the first groups to really welcome Indigenous peoples, and in many cases, Black people and Asian people as well. Um, yeah, well, I think when they renamed it, the numbers got changed. But if I recall correctly, it was initially called African Lodge Number One, if I recall correctly, and it got renamed later. Or it could have been the opposite. It was initially called African Lodge 459 and renamed to Number One. But either way, Prince Hall got itself renamed at some point. I did see that spirit. I'm going to talk about that maybe 1 hour in. I'm torn on it. My general view, and I speak exclusively for myself, is I'm not opposed to the theory of requiring Masons to disclose their membership if they're going to be police officers. In my opinion, if you are a police officer and you are a member of any club or organization that is, let's say, at least 10,000 members strong nationally, then you should have to disclose that, whether it's Masons, Rotary, Elks, Moose, whatever it is, at least 10,000 members. Um, because I think, look, if you're a part of like your aunt's knitting club and it's 5 people that get together on a Saturday and that's the, entirety of the club, I'm willing to take the risk that you may run into a conflict of interest with another member of the knitting club, and you can deal with that after the fact by making a report after, let's say you get called to the scene of a crime and one of your friends who's part of the knitting club is, you have to arrest or whatever it is. I'm comfortable with just expecting that after the fact you write a report saying, I had to arrest this person, I know this person, this is how I know them, my partner was there, whatever, blah, 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 and dealing with the conflict after the fact. Because if it is a club of 5 people, the likelihood of there being a conflict of interest is so small, I'm willing to just take the risk and deal with it after the fact. If you're part of a club that has 10,000 people in it, 20,000 people, pick your number, you're more likely to run into conflict of interest when responding to calls, when arresting people. And so it makes sense to pre-disclose the membership. So you at least dealt with it you've dealt with it up front. You've dealt with it proactively as opposed to reactively. Rwanda, what was Freemasons created for? That's a great. Um, so, Spirit, when I was a corrections officer, I did have to disclose that I was a Mason. So, there's no rule that said I had to disclose that I was a Mason, but rather I had to disclose anytime I met with somebody or there was somebody in custody who I had some type of pre-existing relationship with. And that included if they were part of the same group that I was a part of. And unfortunately, there were times where I had to disclose my Masonic being a Freemason because there was somebody else who was part of the same group as me. I had to say I can't work with so and so. I can't be in such and such a location because of this reason. Um, Especially because we had a bigger jail, so very often we would have people sent to us from around the province, and sometimes they would see I'd wear a shirt with the square and compasses on it, or they'd see my tattoo and they'd realize I was a Freemason. Um, and it's right to have to disclose that because how would the general public feel if they saw me, if they knew I was supervising or in charge of someone who I have some type of outside relationship with, outside connection to? The difference is with being a corrections officer or a probation officer, I could always deal with it at the time, right? Like I could choose, not all the time, but if there was a conflict, I could, you know, as soon as I realized it, I could switch clients, I could change clients, I could do whatever it is I needed to do to resolve the situation. You know, you can kind of pick and choose in a sense. With a police officer, you don't have that option. You know, if you get a phone call to respond to some type of crisis, you can't say like I can't respond to that crisis. I'm a Mason and the person who, you know, I'm responding to is a Mason or whatever it is. You just have to respond to it, which is why disclosing after the fact doesn't work. You need some type of proactive disclosure, in my opinion. Um, Conflict of interest is a real thing. Nice, Dad. That's going to be an awesome workshop. The difference between York Rite emulation and the Canadian work. I personally, this is just my humble opinion, just my opinion. I love all Masonic ritual. I think it's all wonderful. In my heart of hearts, I prefer Canadian emulation. I prefer our emulation ritual as opposed to York or Preston Webb, it's often called. They both have their value, but and they're both beautiful in their way. And I've sat through a ton of Preston Webb, but I prefer emulation. I think there's something, but it's probably just because of how I was raised, how I grew up with it. So Rwanda, I think that's how you pronounce it. We are not Satanists. I'm very, very sorry, and I don't think we're inbreeding. No filter, boss. I'm against cults, but I'm pro Freemasonry. William, I have a rainbow flag somewhere because I support the LGBTQ community. No filter. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Somebody asked the question, okay, what was Freemasons created for? A DVita. Of course it's okay to be gay. It's okay to be gay. It's okay to be straight. You be you. There's not a Canadian rite, but Canadian ritual is primarily based on emulation ritual out of UGLE. So Freemasonry, it's interesting. I've struggled to answer that question for a long time. And I realized why I struggled. Freemasonry is an incredibly unique organization in that most organizations, well, so every organization, I'm trying to think of how to put this in a way that makes sense. Every organization is created, or almost every organization at its core is created to fulfill the human desire for connection, but the activity comes first and fulfilling the desire for connection comes second. So for example, if I like knitting, for example, let's say knitting is my favorite thing to do. I may enjoy knitting with other people. So I create a knitting club. And in that case, knitting comes first and then fulfilling the desire of human connection comes second. So when you say, what does the knitting club do? It knits. If I love sports, I create a football team. If I love reading, I create a book club. If I love cooking, I, cook with my friends on a Saturday night. The activity comes first, and through that activity, the desire for human connection is fulfilled. Freemasonry is fascinating because it's the opposite. When Freemasonry was formed in the 15th and 16th centuries, there was no activity assigned to it other than the desire to meet. You had stonemasonry, you had stonemasons, which was an activity, and you had stonemason guilds. But then a lot of what are called speculative masons, or the first members, saw these stonemasonry guilds and realized, like, hey, we don't want to work with stone, but we want to meet, we want to gather, we want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. And as a consequence of that, they asked if they could join. And so in Freemasonry, it's fascinating because the purpose of it literally was just to be with other people. After the desire to be with other people was met, they started to build on top of that basic desire through the creation of rituals and ceremonies and through paying homage to our stone Masonic brethren who allowed us into their guilds to meet. But in some ways, you could argue Freemasonry is at its core the most pure form or the most pure um, uh, reflection of the human desire to belong to something. Because initially, the entire reason Freemasonry was formed was to fulfill the desire to belong to something, more so than anything else. It was about belonging, which is really fascinating. And then from there, it developed rituals and ceremonies based on, amongst other things, um, it borrowed from different religious traditions, philosophical traditions, and obviously stone masonry itself. Um, well, I mean, liberalism means a lot of different things, Rwand. I think you want to be careful. You don't want to think about liberal in a modern context, right? Liberal can mean a lot of different things. At the time, liberal just meant expansive. So, for example, if you're seasoning meat and they say using a liberal amount of seasoning, that doesn't mean the seasoning you're using is, I don't know, pro higher taxation. It just means a lot of or expansive. Um, I mean, I'm sure Muslim Freemasons do pray. If I recall correctly, Muslims in general, whether they're Freemasons or otherwise, need to pray at least 5 times every day. So, I mean, I guess it would depend on how observant they are of their faith. In the same way, I think Christian Freemasons probably pray if they're observant. If they're not observant, though, then they won't. It depends on the individual. We got some hearts that might be Smokey the Clown. Good for you, Dad. That's being a good Freemason. Even if they don't know you're a Freemason, that's still just being a good person. So good for you. Although also good for you for checking your checking your receipts. I honestly never do that. I suppose it's probably worth doing it though in future. Maybe maybe it would be worth maybe it would be worth me doing that more often, actually checking receipts to see what's going on. Because I will admit I am pretty bad about that. I've actually heard of people having the opposite situation happen where they buy a bunch of stuff, they check their receipt, they realize they were overcharged for items or there are items on the receipt that they never purchased. So that can happen as well. Stream Seeker, chilling, doing some work. Good, keep up doing the work. Sorry, Nigerian Nightmare, Freemasons are not evil Satanists. What are your thoughts on the Statue of Liberty since it came? Sandwich, I just learned about the Statue of Liberty and its Masonic connections probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 months ago. It was fascinating to see, to learn that. I had no idea. So I thought it was really, really cool to learn. Um, I mean, I don't really know what I'm not really sure what. I love the Statue of Liberty. I think it's a really beautiful statue. The fact that has those Masonic connections, I think is really, really cool and a really interesting piece of Masonic trivia. Beyond that, I mean, when I think of the Statue of Liberty, usually I think about Ghostbusters Part 2 when the Statue of Liberty comes to life and they're walking through Manhattan and they're spraying the whatever it is, that goo that makes people happy. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool. Beyond that, though, I got nothing. You do not get money if you join, Rwand. So to be a Freemason, anybody who tells you that you will get money to be a Freemason is scamming you. You will have to pay money to be a Freemason. Not a lot. Usually it's relatively inexpensive, at least compared to other organizations. But anybody who promises you money or success or fame or anything like that is lying to you. Um, and it's a scam. I actually talked about that a few streams ago. People getting emails and stuff saying, oh, we join the Masonic Lodge. You'll get rich. You'll get famous. You'll get influence. You'll get power. You will get none of those things. So just keep that in mind. Well, there is no singular purpose of joining Rwanda, right? A lot of people ask that question. Everybody's purpose is different. Everybody joins for different reasons. That's again why it's so challenging, I think, for people to talk about Freemasonry, because it did not start with any purpose other than the desire to belong to something. Like a knitting club starts with the purpose of learning how to knit. A cooking class starts with the purpose of learning how to cook. When the first speculative Masons were joining stone Masonic lodges, they were joining just because they wanted to be part of something. They wanted to be part of a group. They wanted to get together. It's kind of like asking, what is the purpose of a boys' night out? Well, to be with the boys, right? But then individuals can have their own goals as well. Some will join because they want to make friends and they find it challenging. I've met some people, and even on this stream, people who have said, I'm naturally an introvert, and joining Freemasonry made me feel like it forced me to make friends I would not have made otherwise. Some join because they want to be closer to their families who maybe were Masons in the past. Some join, unfortunately or fortunately, I'm not as opposed to this as others. Some join because they want to make connections in the community, maybe for business or political purposes. That can happen. Some join because they want to try to make the world a better place, and they feel like Freemasonry can help them doing that by directing them towards charity and support for their community. Some join for a sense of camaraderie and brotherhood, especially veterans returning from war. So there's a million reasons to join, but at its core, why do guys get together, every month for a guys' night out with their friends? To have friends. It's our nature. Well, you can get friends in a million ways, Rwanda, or Rwanda. You can get friends in a million ways, but Freemasonry is just one way. That's like asking. So for me, my favorite song in the world is Simple Man, right? I love that song. You could ask me, can't you listen to other songs? It's like, sure, I can listen to other songs, but I love Simple Man. In the same way, I can make friends a million different ways, but I love Freemasonry. So there you go. At a certain point, it just becomes, why do you like the things you like? That has more to do with the individual and not the Mason. Mark, please hit like and subscribe. I do not know what the resonant frequency of 53 means. Is 67? Not that I know of. I mean, Freemasons are big in certain numbers. 7 is a very important number in Freemasonry. And it's a very important number in the world. I mean, 7 pops up a lot. Famously, it's a prime number. There are 7 deadly sins. There's 7 liberal arts and sciences. If I recall correctly, there were 7 muses. I mean, there's a million different, like 7 is one of those numbers that tends to pop up a lot just in the world, and Freemasonry is no different. It's also because it's a prime number, and prime numbers are a really big deal, right? Both mathematically and probably if we ever do meet aliens, which I don't think we ever will, in communication. Siddharth says 6-7. Hello, Siddharth. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. I'm 2 subs away from 3,080 subscribers. So that's going to be pretty cool. It's funny. I got back from Bogota, Colombia, and I remember saying, I really hope I get over 3,000 subs before the year is over. And I am currently at 3,078. I have no idea what the meme is called. I do not know to what you're referring. I mean, I know memes, but I've never heard of a meme called Mason. I know about a lot of Masonic memes, but I've never heard of a meme called Mason. And I have no idea why 67 is such an important number or why it keeps popping up. I find it very strange, but it's a whole separate can of tuna and a whole separate issue. Oh, tell Tara I say hello. I hope she's doing well. I got to send you, actually, we're going to do it on your channel, right? Send me a link and I'll join your YouTube stream on the 29th of December. It'll be a lot of fun. It's pronounced 6-7. I have no idea what it means though, or why it's coming out, or why it's so important. I keep hearing about this 6-7 thing, but I don't know what it means. The United Masonic States of America, says Mark Roy. I mean, Freemasonry has played an important role in the development of America. It also played an important role in the development of Canada, the Philippines, um, Brazil, South America, but it just because it played an important role doesn't mean it played an exclusive role, nor does it mean it's, you know, there are other factors that were more important. But Freemasonry has been an important part of the development of many countries just because Freemasonry was so ubiquitous. And there was so many Freemasons once upon a time. Um, it's kind of like, uh, you know, if you have a lot of Freemasons in a country, in a community, then the philosophies and the ideals behind the organization are going to seep into the day-to-day life of that country, whether you're a janitor or a president or anywhere in between. Um, people keep asking me to say 6-7. I don't know why. Oh, are we doing the pig pen? Are we doing the Masonic cipher? Famously, that was talked about in, I think it was the Da Vinci Code, if I recall correctly. It's the amount of prostate exams you guys have had. Well, I mean, I know you're being sarcastic, Luke, but I'm going to take it seriously and say everybody should listen to their doctor's advice. And if your doctor is telling you to get a prostate exam, then you should get a prostate exam. I am of the age, I am very sad to say this. I am of the age where I'm going to need to get a prostate exam soon, I think, because I'm over 40. And I'm very, very sad about that. Not happy about it, but I'm going to be an adult about this whole thing. And when my doctor tells me to do it, I'm going to grit my teeth and do it. Um, yes, I mean, I haven't refed anything for wrestling since I think it was September, October, since the Arena Rumble. But hopefully, January, February, I'll get back into it, and I can't wait. To get back into it. Actually, I was just at the school yesterday. They had a Christmas party at the school. They had a Secret Santa. My gift, I'm going to show them because it was really cool. I'll be back in just 1 second. My gift was these gloves, which are really cool because not only are they gloves, but they double as mitts, which means, yes, I'm in a wheelchair. I was born missing my legs, which means not only can I wear them as kind of mitts and leave my fingers free if I want to use my phone or something, but if it gets too cold, I can put this over. And then I got mitts or gloves. So thank you for that. And I also got with it, and I'll give a shout out to the organization. I also got, it's ordered, Great White North Pro Wrestling Shop, a Drum Boy embroidered solid cuffed beanie, which you can maybe see it there a little bit. Um, I hope you'll check it out. I mean, it's like if you walk a lot, Luke, right? The more you walk, the stronger your legs get. So I do wheel around a bit. So I think my arms are okay if I do say so myself. Bard Clay. It seems like Freemasonry attracts men whose worldview is based on idealism. Well, so Bard Clay, thank you for being here. I think you might be new to the stream. I don't know if I recognize your name. If you're not new to the stream, I'm very sorry. If you are, if you have been here before, but if not, please hit like and subscribe. It's interesting. I don't know. To me, being an idealist is it's not a contradiction to be an idealist and believe in objective material reality. Like I would say the opposite of someone who believes in objective material reality would be a spiritualist. I think an idealist can also, like, I would in some ways describe myself as an idealist, although I can be very cynical about people. But I would also describe myself as believing objective materiality. I do think there can unfortunately be a strain of Freemasonry that attracts spiritualism or esotericism, which I'm not always personally comfortable with. But that's a different thing than idealism, right? Idealism is you recognize a material world, but you believe that ultimately things will work out within that world for the best. So an idealist would believe, not that some type of spiritual force will come and save us, but that humans will be able to figure things out through technological or other means. A spiritualist might believe that some, hidden force in nature will come and save us, if that makes any sense. Mark, Freemasons are weak in spirit. I mean, a Freemason can be weak in spirit because Freemasons are humans and have all of the strengths and weaknesses of humans. Having said that, I like to think I'm pretty strong in spirit, but who knows? Who knows? Um, Rwanda, well, you can believe whatever you want to believe. I have no doubt that what you're saying comes from the bottom of your heart, but you are wrong. At least you are wrong based on all of my experiences and all of my 20 years as a Freemason. Now, you don't have to take my word for it, and you're free to believe whatever you so choose. But I would hope that the fact I've been a Mason for, at this point, almost 20 years straight would make you reconsider that as an idea. I think there's many positive things to say in relation to Freemasonry, certainly within my experiences. Yes, Dad is right. Prevention is better than the cure. Get your prostate examined. Grit your teeth. Take your doctor out for dinner afterwards. If they're going to do that to me, then at least they should buy me dinner first. But no, in all seriousness, do what your doctor says. Take my dad. I'm very happy he's still here. And if he hadn't been tested and been found out, who knows? Aristotle says, hello, Aristotle. I would never. Mark Roy, you don't have to subscribe to Freemasonry. You can subscribe to my channel, though. My channel promotes the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located. But subscribing to this channel doesn't make you a Freemason or anything like that. Aristotle, what are the main benefits of being Freemason? See, Aristotle, this goes into James Dolan's question as well. There is no singular benefit to being a Freemason, other than at its core, the benefit of being a Freemason is the same as the benefit of going on a boys' night out, is the same as joining a knitting club, is the same as joining a sports team. The benefit is fulfilling the human desire to belong to something greater than oneself, which is a really, really cool thing. But then within that, You know, I get the benefit of feeling closer to my grandfather because he was a Freemason. I never got to meet him. He passed before I was born, so I feel closer to him. In some ways, it makes me feel closer to my dad as well, and my papa, my mom's dad. But I mean, I grew up with my dad, obviously, and he was a great dad. So I always felt, even before Freemasonry, I always felt pretty close to him. But my grandfather, whom I never got to meet, being a Freemason is my connection to him. I would say, in general, though, there are a few categories of benefits. Primarily, it's to be closer to family, if you have family who are Freemasons. It's to create a family or to make friends that you would not otherwise meet. It can be to develop certain skills and abilities, specifically around memorization skills and running meetings and administration. Sometimes it can be for a social safety net to join something and know if you need help, you can find help, whether it be help moving or if you lose your job, requesting financial assistance. And there were times people joined for a desire for, to help grow their business. That's not the best reason to join, but it did happen. And it still does happen sometimes. Curse Lucifer. I mean, I don't know what it means to curse Lucifer. I'm not a Christian, so I will curse Lucifer. I don't know what that means, but I am not a Luciferian. I'm not a Satanist. I don't follow Lucifer. Freemasonry is not a religion. Well, what we do within the craft, right? Again, the craft didn't form with any particular purpose in the way that like a knitting club forms to knit. Within the craft, we have administrative meetings and ceremonial meetings where we either try to preserve the craft itself or we bring in new members through rituals. I'm not going to swear on the stream, but I will say I curse Lucifer. So there you go. Aristotle, I can understand the desire to ignore the negative comments, and I understand for some people on the stream it can be annoying to hear me responding. But if I started this stream with the purpose of promoting the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located, and to talk about Masonic interest, part of that means I have to accept that I'm going to deal with people who have negative views on Freemasonry. Now, in some cases, they might just be trolling, meaning they don't actually have any views on Freemasonry, positive or negative. It's rather a situation where they just want to say things to get a rise out of you. But in some cases, they may have honestly come across their views in that they genuinely believe what they're saying. Maybe they saw some stuff on YouTube. Maybe they had a negative experience with a Freemason. And I feel like I'm doing a disservice to the craft and to the stream if I don't at least try to engage with them and explain why they are incorrect. Somebody above did ask the question. Oh, and by the way, thank you, Literal Trash Music, for the $2 super chat. That is incredibly kind of you and incredibly generous towards you. Mark Roy, Freemasonry is very positive for every community it's a part of, if it grows. Somebody asked above, and I've got this question a few times, and I think it's worth asking. What if I found out the higher ranks were Freemasonry? Or what if I found out the higher ranks were worshiping Satan? Well, so my response is threefold. First, based on all of my research, and I like to think I've done some pretty decent research, there is no worshiping of Satan in any rank, quote unquote, rank of Freemasonry. However, I always point out there is no higher ranks within Freemasonry in the way people understand it. So here's what I mean. Let's imagine you got rid of the 33rd degree of Freemasonry. Let's just say you cut it out altogether and it no longer was a part of Freemasonry and no longer was a part of Scottish Rite. What would happen to Freemasonry? Nothing. Freemasonry would continue to exist. In fact, Freemasonry would really not change almost at all for 99.999% of the members. Freemasonry would still exist, and it would really, nobody would notice. I'm not saying it would be sad that it would be gone, because I know a lot of 33rd degrees and they're great people, but Freemasonry can exist and did exist for much of its history without a 33rd degree. If, however, you got rid of the first 3 degrees of Freemasonry, the entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason degrees, Freemasonry would cease to exist. Right? The Blue Lodge is what's necessary for Freemasonry to exist. Therefore, that is what matters. That's the most important thing. And also, there's no higher rank in the sense of, like, when people think of the term higher rank, there's no ranks in Freemasonry in the same sense of, like, a military. Like, the worshipful master, who needs to be a 3rd degree Mason, and that's it, you could argue he has the highest rank in a lodge. But if, for example, I'm trying to think of how to put this in a way that makes sense. If you have a 33rd degree Mason in a Blue Lodge, even in a Scottish Rite, he has no more power or authority or rank than anybody else within the lodge. It's not like he can say something and it goes. He has 1 vote, just like everybody else. Extraordinary Milo. No, this is not pre-recorded. I'm here. I'm chatting. Yes, this is not pre-recorded. Maybe I'm trying not to act different, but who knows? I got my cool gloves on. Usually, like I said, the first hour I just hang out and chat. The second hour I have specific topics that I delve into. We're actually 1 hour down. There is no higher ranks in that sense, Rwanda, right? There is no higher ranks that are controlling everything. Every Mason gets a vote in lodge. The closest thing to a higher rank in Freemasonry is not based on degrees. It's based on offices. And you could argue the highest rank of an office is the Worshipful Master, or maybe the District Deputy Grand Master. What do you guys vote on? Well, I mean, Freemasonry is a democratic institution, literal trash music, which means, in some ways, almost everything. Like, for example, you can make a motion to, for example, how much to spend on dinner. Are we going to have a special event? Do we accept the correspondence? Do we accept the minutes? Your typical Masonic meeting is often run very much like what's the word I'm looking for? Very much like a Robert's Rules of Order, where you have motions. It could be a motion to spend money on a special event. Maybe a motion to deliver flowers to widows, or educational discussions, right? Like, for example, at the last meeting I was in, they had a vote to spend a set amount of money, I think it was $200, on delivering flowers to widows, because the money that would be used comes from dues, which we pay in every year. Every Mason should have the right to vote on that, and to vote on whether they want that to go through. So that's just one example. I do not, Rwanda, because I've known plenty of Jewish people, and they're good people. And I mean, I think Jewish people can be good or bad in the same way Muslims can be good or bad, in the same way Christians can be good or bad. But I don't believe, I'm very, skeptical of conspiracy theories in general. I think they're all baloney. I think human beings have too many conflicts of interests and conflicting interests to engage in conspiracies on a massive scale. What if complaint? Well, I mean, it depends the nature of the complaint. If you are upset with, let's say, the worshipful master of your lodge, and you feel he's acting inappropriately, you can go to the, a rank above, which would be called the District Deputy Grand Master, and express your concerns. Or you can even go beyond that, though hopefully, and there are such things as what's called, Masonic charges, where if you feel someone is acting inappropriately, you can deal with it. However, the hope would be before it gets to that point, you would talk to the worshipful master and express your concerns privately in order to help him, better, express what your concerns are and why they're concerns. Having said that, my normal view on this has always been, if somebody is the worshipful master of a lodge, they didn't get there through nefarious means. They got there because they were voted into that position. They were voted into that position by a lodge. You had the opportunity to vote for or against. The lodge picked them, so you have to have a level of trust, and you got to give them a chance to lead. You have to. One of the worst things we can do in Freemasonry is entrust people with the title, but not entrust them with the authority or the respect that should come with that title. Because all that does is lead to resentments and anger, which is not a helpful or healthy thing at all for obvious reasons. Well, let's not go breaking any stones, cornerstones or otherwise. I do not know what that means, but no lodge is offering free girls to come to bed. That is not what lodges do. If a lodge is offering you that, they are, at best, they are scammers. At worst, they are involved in criminal activity, and the police should be called. What is the average Freemason's diet? That's a good question, son of Sammy. I don't know. Every Mason kind of eats, Freemasons have no prescribed diets. What I would say is, my experience is the average Masonic diet is very unhealthy. We need to work on that and be better, because Freemasons should be healthy. But there's somebody called a junior warden. That junior warden is responsible for creating or for providing food after lodge, or sometimes before lodge, and it really just depends. It could be anything from coffee and donuts to a 5-course meal. The greatest meal I ever had was in Rio de Janeiro at a Masonic celebration. It was absolutely delicious. I remember the pasta. It was this leek pasta. It was so good. It was unbelievable. So I guess what I'd say is it just depends. But I think we in Freemasonry need to do a better job at eating healthy. I don't think we are doing near enough. And I think junior wardens need to be willing to maybe spend a bit more money to provide us with healthier food sometimes. Aristotle, that's a good question. So every jurisdiction will have both a constitution and will have a constitution, and the lodge itself will have the bylaws. And that sets out the rules for that lodge in particular and the jurisdiction as a whole. So for example, in Ontario, I am required to follow the Constitution of Grand Lodge and the bylaws of my local lodge. One of the things is we have a dress code. Every meeting, I'm required to show up wearing a suit and tie and, a suit with a tie. That's unique to Ontario. In Texas, they don't have a dress code, to my knowledge. In Illinois, they don't have a dress code, I recall. So there is no universal global baseline, because Freemasonry does not have global governance, but within whatever jurisdiction you're in, there will be a set of rules. So in Ontario, again, it applies to Masons in Ontario. What I would say, however, is at the base, at the core of it, Freemasonry, the core baseline rule is to be a good man and true. And that has existed since the Anderson Constitutions, really since the Regius poem. Well, there are standards of recognition, like belief in a supreme being, but those are not enforced by a single body. They're enforced at the jurisdictional level. There is no global enforcement, if that makes sense. Every Grand Master of every jurisdiction enforces the rules. And again, there's a lot of differences. There's differences between Freemasonry in Ontario and Manitoba. There's recognition and regularity, but that's not the same as rules. Good question. OSFFC. Well, I mean, I don't think you'd want to be a National Socialist and be a Freemason. I gotta grab a drink of water. I'll be back in 1 second because I'm very thirsty. Right? The problem is this idea of being a quote unquote National Socialist. I don't think you would enjoy being a Freemason because you would have to sit in lodge with Jewish people, with black people, with people of different beliefs and different understandings and different religions and different faiths. Like, it would be completely opposite to what your political beliefs are. And also, you would not be able to talk about you would not be able to talk about politics in the lodge, and you would not be able to use political means to, quote unquote, kick people out of the craft. So I can't imagine you would enjoy it very much. Freemasonry stands for the opposite of National Socialism, which is why Hitler and the Nazis banned it in Germany. Yes, you have to be accepting towards all. So OSF asks, why is it secret if nothing shady is going on? Well, Freemasonry is not secret, since I'm here talking about it and talking about I'm a Freemason and why I love it. Freemasonry has private elements to it, but the reason we have the private elements is to maintain the bonds of brotherhood between past, present, and future generations. If I were to start sharing with everybody the private natures of our ceremonies, it reduces the bonds of brotherhood that exist within Freemasonry. In much the same way, if I have a family recipe and I start to share that recipe with people who are not part of my family, the consequences of that is the bonds between the family members are reduced. So that's what I'd say about that. I don't know if I'd use the term incapacitated. I feel like I'm pretty capacitated, for whatever it's worth. But I have been in a wheel. I've been missing my legs my whole life. I was born without legs. I started using the wheelchair in high school. Before that, I used artificial limbs. I love the sound of all those principles too, James Dolan, which is why I love Freemasonry. I mean, I suppose you could be a socialist and be a Freemason. I mean, we don't talk about politics in lodge. I've known Masons who are very left-wing, and I've known Masons who are very right-wing. Being left or right does not affect your ability to engage with Freemasonry. Nor should it, if Freemasonry is not a political organization. But yeah, I would not use the term incapacitated. Now, if I had been born in the 15th, 14th centuries and, born missing my legs, then you could argue I might be incapacitated, because certainly society, technology, medicine was not set up for me to exist, at least well, at that point in time. Welcome back from sleeping. But others can stand for me. And that's the beautiful thing about Freemasonry. I have brothers who can stand on solid foundation for me, which is a pretty beautiful thing. I can try my best to give you my advice. I can't make any promises, but I will try my best. What advice are you looking for? And by the way, everybody watching this, please don't forget, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this stream. I do not think anyone, so I'm a firm believer in you should love your country. And you should believe your country is the best country in the world. So I have said it a million times. I believe Canada is the greatest country in the world. However, that doesn't stop me from also believing that if you live in America, you should believe America is the greatest country in the world. And if you live in the United Kingdom, you should believe the UK is the greatest country in the world. And if you live in France, you should believe France is the greatest country in the world. I can both believe I live in the greatest country in the world, and I can believe that everybody should believe that of their country. It's like giving your dad a world's best dad t-shirt. I can give my dad a world's best dad t-shirt while also respecting others doing the same for their dad. So in my heart of hearts, I believe Canada is, the greatest country in the world and is, better than any European country. I can believe North America is the greatest, is the greatest continent in the world. But I can also respect people in Europe believing that their countries or their continent is the greatest in the world. Beware of cults. Well, luckily, lead artist 420, Freemasonry is not a cult. But I would agree, you should beware of cults. Please, leader artist, hit the like and subscribe button. Let's see if we can get over 3,100 subs before Christmas. Let's make that the goal. Canada is the 51st state. Canada is not the 51st state. Canada is its own country and the greatest country in the world. In part because we have the greatest neighbors in the world, but that's a whole separate can of tuna. Let's hope it never comes to that. I think Canada is a lot tougher than people realize. So who knows? But I would say that's one thing I'd rather not win or lose, because I don't think in a war between Canada and the US, anybody would win. Aristotle, were the founding fathers Freemasons? Some of them were. Based on my researches, between 9 and 11 of the founding fathers were Freemasons. Sandwich Man, to my knowledge, no. I've never seen any evidence or, been confirmed that Donald Trump is a Freemason. I don't believe he is. Trump can do anything. Trump is not Superman. Nobody is. I'm not a big fan of Donald Trump myself, but that's my personal opinion. Having said all of that, no one can do everything or anything. And I think we in society need to focus on putting our faith and our trust in our neighbors and not so much in political institutions. I support, I believe in patriotism. I believe in trying our best to support our, if not political institutions per se, certainly our civil or civic institutions, but I also think we need to learn to trust and support our neighbors as well. Hey, Dad, if you were to say England is the greatest country in the world, I would support that 100%. I keep on meaning to finish my application for my British citizenship. I'm so swamped lately, I don't have time to do it, but I want to get around to it. Freemasonry is not idolatry either, Sandwich Man. Well, I mean, William Barry, certainly stonemasons built cathedrals. That, by definition, is what they would do, right? Any building structure built from stone, certainly Freemasons, or certainly stonemasons would have built it. Stonemasons build literal cathedrals and temples. Freemasons build metaphorical temples. So... And I am not a Satanist nor a Freemasons XXY. They could be. Aristotle. I don't think I've met any Buddhist Freemasons. I'm trying to think if I have. I met Hindu and Sikh Freemasons. I don't know how well connected those two religions are to Buddhism, but I don't see why not. Um, XX, England's a wonderful country. I was just in England. I was in London, and then I was in northern England in Newcastle, and then I was in Scotland, and all of those places were wonderful, beautiful, great people, very friendly. I will say this, expensive as heck, certainly compared to South America where I visited recently, but still a beautiful place, genuinely. Um, I mean, Aristotle, you're pretty close to what it was. Yeah, you had stonemasons who formed guilds, basically trade unions, and then speculative masons, which is the term, speculative, asked to join to be part of the club. They didn't want to learn stonemasonry work, but what they wanted to learn is how to build things out of stone. Um, sorry, they didn't want to learn how to build things out of stone. What they wanted was to get these social benefits of it, the safety net benefits of it, to be part of something bigger than themselves. They wanted to be part of something, and stone masonry guilds or stone Masonic guilds allowed them to be part of something greater than themselves in exchange for paying of dues and maintaining the secrets. XXYY, you seem unfortunately very cranky. The United Kingdom does not suck, nor does Canada, nor does America. They're all great places. They're places I have been very proud to visit. I hope to visit again. Please hit the like and subscribe button. I do not know where Cape Verde Island is, but hey, if it's an island, I'm sure it's beautiful. Probably a tropical island. I'm sure Tahiti is wonderful as well. Aristotle, how old is the Freemason group? There are different dates you can go with depending on, your perspective. I would probably put it to, I tend to pick the most convenient date, which is June 24th, 1717. So about 308 years old. That's true. I don't live there, and so everything I say has to be taken with a grain of salt. But my visit was pretty incredible. And America, I mean, yes, I'm visiting, but I visit pretty frequently. I was just there about a week ago. So I guess I do take my visits to the States as being somewhat more, um, what's the word I'm looking for? As being somewhat representative of the country because I'm there so frequently. And when I go there, I'm not just going there. I mean, I don't have the money, but I'm not going there and, getting driven around and staying in these, you know, fancy hotels. When I travel to the States, I take the public transit. I stay in Motel 6s. I visit the quote unquote regular people like the Masons. I visit the regular lodges. I try to, eat at the regular restaurants. I drink Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I do believe if you're going to travel, you shouldn't simply be traveling and, go from hotel to airport with like a fancy car service in between. Take the public transit, eat the street food, visit the regular Masonic lodges, whether it be in the Philippines, whether it be in Brazil, whether it be in Rio de Janeiro, or Bogota, Colombia, or Chicago, or England. Take the tube, take the underground, take the buses, eat the street food, get to know the people. I think that's our duty as travelers. That's also our duties as Freemasons. Mike James, Freemasonry has nothing to do with that. Talk to your doctor. I did love Scotland. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. Scotland. I mean, I was in Edinburgh, so again, I didn't get to see all of Scotland, but the Scotland I saw was absolutely gorgeous, as was the Grand Lodge of Scotland in Edinburgh. Beautiful building, genuinely. No, Aristotle. Actually, Aristotle, that issue is coming up because right now in the United Kingdom, the Metropolitan Police are requiring all Freemasons who are police officers to disclose their Masonic membership, which is creating quite the stir right now and becoming quite the issue. Um, but no, and nor should you have that expectation. If you're joining Freemasonry for those expectations, you're joining for the wrong reason. Um, Within Freemasonry, one of the things that we are taught is yes, we are to support our brothers. However, if our brothers are committing a crime, um, be informing the authorities, but not covering up for crimes. So I'm not. I mean, obviously, yeah, I've driven with people who have been found speeding, and the police officer has let them off with a warning because they weren't speeding that much or whatever it is, But that's not because in those cases the person driving, the police officer wasn't a Mason or the person driving wasn't a Mason or whatever. Sometimes police officers just let you off with a warning, which is fine, and police officers have that discretion, but it should never be based on Masonic connections, which again is why I'm one of the few who's supportive of the Metropolitan Police decision to disclose, because that way everybody's upfront and honest. And if a police officer does decide to let anyone off with a warning, they've already disclosed that they're a Mason. And so it goes to show they're not doing it because they're a Mason, they're just choosing to let somebody off with a warning, which happens plenty, I'm sure. Sometimes they'll do it just because they're in a good mood, right? It's not about being a Mason. Mike James, once again, talk to your doctor, hit the like and subscribe button. Yes, talk to the ladies as well. Create your own YouTube channel, do a live stream, and ask the ladies to weigh in and to let you know what the best position is for that, because I cannot help you. You're on your own. All right. Well, hard worker, I think in your case, we're going to put you in a bit of a timeout. Thank you for liking and subscribing, Mike James. So Freemasonry is jurisdictional. What that means is different jurisdictions will have different rules. Like Texas will have different rules than, let's say, I don't know, than United Grand Lodge of England. So, but Aristotle, I always want to get this question. I mentioned the United Grand Lodge of England's position, which I believe is the best position. And I credit UGLE a lot with coming out with this position in, I believe it was 2018, which is if you are a trans man, so you're assigned female at birth, but you transition to a man, then you can join, you can join Freemasonry. You join the fraternity, you're considered a man equal to any other brother in the lodge. Not only that, but they actually did a really good job at UGLE of setting out the expectations, which is, the trans designation, like nobody brings it up, nobody talks about it. The trans identity is between the member and his doctor or whomever is providing him with the gender affirming care. It's not the Mason's business. If he identifies as a man, that's good enough. And that is the UGLE position. That is my personal position. I think that's the right position. And I credit UGLE for coming out with that policy in 2000, and I think it was 18, relatively early. Hello, Last Investor 88. Thank you for being here. No, chime in. I'm not falling for that. Please hit like and subscribe, but I'm going to put you in a 1-minute timeout. So just deal with that. Last Investor, how's it going? Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Long time no see indeed, but it's great to have you back. I don't know how long it's been, but if you've noticed, things are going pretty well on the channel. Over 3,000 subs, uh, getting close to 3,100 subs, and almost 4,000 watch hours, which means I would get to the section where you can earn income through ad revenue, not just super chats. Having said that, please consider doing a super chat. Arlene, now you can see that Arlene. Please hit like and subscribe. No. Thank you. Yeah, it's going well. Initially, it's funny. I got back from Bogota, Colombia, and I was saying, I'm on the road to 3,000 subs. At that point, I was 25 away from getting 3,000, so I said, let's see if we can get over that before the new year. And the very next day, I was over 3,000 subs. So that's wonderful. And I'm about 400 valid public watch hours from getting my ad revenue monetized. I think I might get to there before the New Year's as well, which is going to be pretty incredible. And I'm very grateful for that also. Mystic Mountain, nobody, because we don't convert within Freemasonry. Freemasonry is not a conversion. That's kind of a religious term. I hope I've managed to maybe encourage some people to learn more about Freemasonry or maybe seek out Freemasonry. However, I never want to be the reason someone joins Freemasonry. People should join Freemasonry because something about it speaks to them and speaks to their heart. I can maybe encourage people to consider it, but the final decision to join, not to convert, but to join, should be left up to the individual. Thank you, last investor. No, it's going very well. And also my Patreon is growing. Anyone who's a Patreon member, even at the 3 degree per month mark, I mailed out all of your items today, so you hopefully will get them before the holiday season. If you are signing up to be a Patreon, make sure that you include your mailing address in a comment or in a message to me so I can send you what you need. So I can send you, not what you need. So I can send you that for which you are entitled, that for which you are eligible through being a Patreon. Ashton is big boss. Would it matter if I was? Within Freemasonry, we don't discriminate based on sexual orientation. We have gay and straight Freemasons. Well, Arlene, what I'm assuming you will do is hit the like button and the subscribe button to help out the channel. That is my hope. Maybe I'll also get over 3,100 subs before 2025 ends. I need 16 more subs to get 3,100. So let's see how we do. And thank you also for the super chat. Greatly, greatly appreciated. We're going to give it a bit more time. We're going to wait to see who joins. And normally I have specific topics that I discuss. Today I'm just hanging out and chatting with people and seeing how they're doing. I will say, I have talked about this a couple days ago. The United Grand Lodge of England have decided to launch legal action in response to what they believe is an unlawful, discriminatory, and unfair decision by the Metropolitan Police Force to designate Freemasonry as a declarable association. I can read their full statement in just 1 second. Sorry, Aristotle, you have to apologize. I don't know the question. Oh, if there were conjoined twins, one of them wants to be a Freemason and another doesn't want to be, could either of them join? I mean, That's a really interesting question. I have no idea. Um, yeah, yes. Like, I'm trying to think how to answer that. I think we could make it work. So there was a time when you could not join a Masonic Lodge if you were not a whole person. Whole person. And what that meant is if you were missing limbs, um, you could not join a Masonic Lodge. And the argument was there were certain qualities or nature, or there's a certain part of being a Freemason. It requires certain movements, certain certain movements, certain modes of recognition that require having legs or having arms. So therefore, we're not going to let you join. And after World War One in Ontario, a lot of Masons were returning from, a lot of men were returning from the battlefields, missing their limbs. And they decided they wanted to join Freemasonry to continue that feeling of camaraderie and brotherhood they had overseas. And they were being denied because they were missing limbs. And so lodges got together and said it's obviously a pretty perverse thing to deny membership to someone who fought for our country because they're missing limbs. And the whole point is they changed the rule and they adapted things in such a way to allow men like me to join who's in a wheelchair. And there was a time when joining a Masonic lodge while in a wheelchair would have been considered inconceivable. Inconceivable to honor Rob Reiner. So my point is, if a conjoined twin really wanted to join Freemasonry, but his other twin didn't, I am sure that they could find a way to make it work. My best guess would be having to like put earmuffs and like a blindfold over the other conjoined twin during meeting nights. Because I'm sure one of the issues with being a conjoined twin is at some point, one twin maybe wants to go to the museum and the other twin doesn't. I'm sure there's a ton of like negotiations around that. So my suspicion is they would find a way to make it work. I'm a huge fan of Princess Bride, so I was very saddened by his passing, that's for sure. Goodbye, Dad. I love you as always. That's all I can think to do, Gabe. I mean, it seems unfair, but I have no clue. Or maybe the one who doesn't want to join just says, "I'll join as well just to make you happy." Because I'm assuming there's a ton of like, oh my gosh, I'm assuming there's a ton of compromises like daily, where from like 5 to 8. The one conjoined twin does what he wants, and then from 8 to 12, the other gets to do what he wants. I have no idea, but my hope would be Freemasons would find a way to make it work. Um, that's my best guess. I can uplift people metaphorically and through being kind, Gabe. Gabe can't say. What I can say, Gabe, is you can uplift people literally, but you can also uplift them metaphorically. You can choose to be kind, you can choose to be patient, you can choose to be charitable. All of those things are a way to uplift people. Candace, you're on your own. I got nothing I can help you with there. Christmas parties. I think the Christmas parties are pretty much finished, but I've been to a few of them and they're all pretty wonderful. Aristotle, yes, they do a lot of eating in lodges, which is good. You should never leave a lodge hungry and you should never leave a lodge thirsty, which is something I very much believe. Speaking of being hungry, I'm going to jump in and enjoy my donut for the moment. Because it looks delicious. I'm not very hungry. Oh, but it's filled. All right, this is not good because I don't like filled donuts. Gabby, on a scale of 1 to 10, that's a really interesting question. Um, I'm trying to think how I'd answer that question. Give me a second because, like, Freemasonry has been so much a part of my life for so long that I have to look back and think. It's kind of like saying, how life changing is air? Like, because I have it every day and it's so much a part of my life, I don't really think about it. It's almost like it's not life changing to have it, but if you took it away, it would be very life changing. Suddenly, it would be quite life changing. I think for me personally, I mean, it's not even so much life changing, it's just a part of my life. It's like having no legs, it's like my apartment, it's just a part of my life. It's made my life better in numerous ways. It's also made my life, more challenging. I've had to sacrifice of time and of energy and of effort, and there's been a lot of challenges that come with being a Freemason. But I don't know how to answer the question. It's not that it's changed my life, it just is my life, or it is a part of my life. Um, I don't ban people, but I will. I don't ban people, but I will put them in timeout if I find them annoying, because I have the right to find people annoying. It's my stream, my rules. Start your own stream. Are you allowed to do fentanyl once you become a Freemason? Well, I mean, within Freemasonry, one of the things we are instructed right from the start is to follow the rules and the laws of the country to which we are a part, which means if fentanyl is illegal, then no, you would not be allowed to. Now, I've known Freemasons who struggle with drug and alcohol addiction, as well as other addictions. It's unfortunate that that happens, but Freemasons are human beings and suffer from all of the same issues that other humans do. Having said that, I do believe within Freemasonry you can find philosophies and ideals and beliefs that will help people overcome those challenges. That's not what Freemasonry is for. If you are struggling with addiction, you should find, AA, NA, find whatever it is you need to find to break that addiction. But I do think there are certain philosophies within Freemasonry, temperance, charity, service to others, that can also help perhaps provide something better than whatever the addiction is providing. No, doorway's not confounded for me because I know my head is big, but I can still make it through doors. Extraordinary Milo 6244. Good question. I'm going to answer that in just 1 second. Yeah, but don't forget Aristotle. He may not have been, or that person may not have seen me discussing it. I don't mind talking about it again. I'm trying to eat this donut around the filling because I hate filled donuts. I love donuts. I hate the ones with filling in them. So I'm trying to get to it. It's very challenging to do this. So I'm kind of the exception to the rule. I can understand why there would be concerns about conflict of interest, and because of that, I am supportive of the Metropolitan Police decision to require Freemasons to disclose their membership, either past or present. However, I have three caveats to that. First, I don't think it should be exclusive to Freemasonry. In my opinion, if you are a member of any group or organization that has over 10,000 members nationally, I think you should be required to disclose it. So whether it's the Freemasons, the Moose, the Elk, whatever else it might be, I think you have a responsibility. You should be required to disclose. Now, I understand the Metropolitan Police plans to add other groups to the list beyond Freemasonry. The fact that they started with Freemasonry, though, I think is a problem because it singles out Freemasonry unfairly. I think the potential for conflicts of interest exists within any group. Um, and as such, I think it's a numbers game. You can debate the number that you want it to be at, like the number of members. I would say 10,000. You could say 5, you could say 20, you could say a million. But there's a number at which the risk of a conflict of interest becomes sufficiently great. I think it's fair to expect police to disclose it. Um, but the fact that it started exclusively with Freemasonry, I have a problem with. The other thing is, I've not seen enough evidence as to what the protective mechanisms are for the list of disclosures. Because, for example, it's not that you're disclosing your membership to the public, you're disclosing your membership as a police officer to your supervisors. But that disclosure goes on a list somewhere. What is the steps they're taking to make sure that list is private? Because Freemasons have faced discrimination in the past, including from crazy people who've actually hunted them down and in some cases killed them. If that list of who are Freemasons and police officers were leaked to the public, that could put officers at risk. Or were hacked. So what are the safety mechanisms to ensure that doesn't take place? Having said that, while I have those concerns, I am not concerned with the general principle behind conflict of interest and making sure that you deal with those. As someone who was engaged in the criminal justice system and who had to disclose, including Masonic connections, I get it. And I think it's silly if we say we don't. Well, James Dolan, they're saying that. I mean, they bring up something that happened in, if I recall correctly, 2001. I forget actually, some affair where there was claims that Masons were colluding, although there was never any proof, and the actual official report cleared Masons of any wrongdoing or cleared Freemasonry from any wrongdoing. Um, but yeah, it has popped up, at least the accusations. So it's interesting, Aristotle. That's a very, very interesting question. Interestingly, even though Vi and I disagree on many things, he's not completely wrong where he says Masons are a male fraternity, and the term Mason historically was actually gender neutral, which a lot of people don't believe, including Masons. But if you look at the Regius poem from 1590, they use the term Mason in a gender neutral term and even use the pronouns he and she to describe Masons. However, colloquially, when most people use the term Mason, they're thinking of the fraternal side of the order, and the fraternal side of Freemasonry. So even for me, when I'm using the term Freemason, I'm by default thinking of the fraternal side of the order and my Masonic Lodge, which is exclusively male. There is, however, the Order of Women Freemasons, there's Co-Masonry, and there's Eastern Star, all of which welcome women or all of which are for women. In fact, the Order of Women Freemasons predates the women's suffrage, women being able to vote. So my point is, in day-to-day general conversation, the term Mason is usually gendered to mean male. However, there are women Freemasons, and they're a wonderful part of the order. Hello, Ted East. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. I got a very elongated head. Please hit like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. I've grown to accept my elongated head, you know? The thing is, I'm so good looking that if it weren't for my elongated head, I would get all the women. So they needed to make sure that they left some women for the rest of you. I would call a female Mason a Mason. Yeah, I would even call them a brother. It's interesting because the Order of Women Freemasons, they actually refer to each other as brother. When they do that, though, they don't mean brother in the sense of like a male sibling. They mean brother in the sense of brotherhood of man. And when they use the term brotherhood of man, it's gender neutral. They mean both men and women. It's mankind, right? So, yeah, I would. They could not necessarily sit in lodge um, with me because it's irregular, but they're still my brothers. They're still my Masons. They're still part of my Masonic family. It's interesting unknown because I'm missing my legs, so I get extra leg room all the time. When I'm flying, I get the extra leg room. I love it. One of the best parts about flying is I get extra leg room. Is Illuminati still around? Balls with three S's. Not in any meaningful way. I know some Illuminati may disagree with that, but they haven't mattered for over a century at this point. It's very hard to eat this donut because I'm trying to avoid the cream-filled center because I hate centers. NASA called. They're considering, yes, unknown. I got a big forehead. Please hit like and subscribe. I've never seen the movie Eyes Wide Shut. Everybody tells me it's a Masonic movie. I don't get it. I don't get why. From what I've seen of clips, if Eyes Wide Shut is supposed to represent Freemasonry, I've never seen any Masonic meetings like that. Nor would I want to. If ever it came to a point where they're handing out, masks and weird stuff like that, I'm going. I'm going to the nearest McDonald's to just hang out. Thank you, unknown. I'll take it. I do have a lot of thoughts, more than I'd like. Sometimes I wish my brain would not be going all the time. But I guess it's a good thing as well, always thinking. But I do sometimes struggle with kind of turning the brain off and just being present. I'm working on it though. I'm working on it. I'm trying to do a little more, not even meditation per se, but just presence exercises, trying to be present, trying to be grounded, trying not to let my thoughts get the best of me. I didn't buy this. I was at a Christmas party, and at the end of the night, they had a bunch of leftover donuts from Tim Hortons, and they just gave everybody a bag with like two or three. So, which is very kind of them. I really appreciated it, but yeah, and I don't want to waste it, but I'm trying to eat around the gross middle part. What does the Freemason symbol mean? I assume you're referencing the square and compass, or the square and compasses with the G in the middle. It has a personal meaning to everybody. Every Mason gets a different meaning from it, but practically, what it references are the tools of stone masons, which we apply to ourselves metaphorically. Most of the symbols in Freemasonry, in some way, shape, or form, refer to stone masons and stone Masonic tools. Balls, what type of rituals do Freemasons do? Well, primarily the rituals relate, or ceremonies relate to initiating, passing, and raising. So bringing candidates through the different degrees. I don't give specifics because A, it ruins it it's kind of like spoilers in a movie. If I give specifics about what the rituals are, it's going to ruin it for the people coming through to experience it for the first time. And if I relate the private natures of the ceremonies, it affects the bonds of brotherhood. What I will say is there is nothing within any Masonic ritual or there's nothing within any Masonic ritual or ceremony that is contrary to our civic, religious, or familial obligations, or work obligations for that matter. You can ask a question, Biscuits. I can't promise you I'll be able to answer, but I'll see what I can do. This is a Tim Hortons donut, and it's got maple on the top of it, and those are great things to think about. Yep, biscuits. I thought it was going to be that. All right. Let's just put you in a little bit of a timeout. Just because you're timed out doesn't mean you can hit the like and subscribe button, though. Probably a lot. Probably a lot. I know I always say be healthy, and here I'm eating a donut. But you know, I do, and he's a Freemason. Well, I guess if it keeps him occupied, so be it. Thank you, Toasty. I am. You know, Vi Victa, he brings up, he was made a Mason on site. It is, I mean, it is not hard to become a Freemason. I mean, it can be time consuming because you have to, approach the lodge, talk to them, they get to know you, you get to know them. Don't rush the process. It's not so much hard, it's a good thing. You want it to take time, it's important. So, it's very interesting because Vi Victe does bring up a very good point. One of the challenges with talking about Freemasonry, it's not even about like recruitment per se. It's just about trying to talk about it. It's a bit like me saying, I'm going to do a stream and I'm going to talk about my favorite song, which is Simple Man by Leonard Skinner. And then if somebody asks me to play the song for them, I'm like, no, I can't play it, but just trust me, bro, it's a great song. And then you're like, well, if you can't play it, like, how can we trust you? It's a great song. And I'm just saying, trust me, bro, it's a great song, right? And in Freemasonry, yeah, people will ask, like, what are the rituals involved in joining? And I say, I'm not going to, explain them because of these reasons. However, just trust me, bro, it's not anything that's contrary to your, your civic, religious, spiritual, familial duties. And you, okay, great, but what happens? And I say, just trust me, bro. That's not always the most comforting thing for people, obviously, right? My response to that is there is, at the end of the day, for better or worse, a certain element of a leap of faith in being a Freemason. Now, I don't like to use the term faith because Freemasonry is not a religion, but there is this element of, yeah, you have to look at me. You have to look at the Masons you've talked to. You have to get to know them. You have to get to know them as people. And if you do all of that, you at a certain extent have to trust that they are being honest and straightforward with you. And if you can't, for whatever reason, get to that point where you believe the Masons that you've met that have been part of your application process are good people and are trustworthy, then you probably shouldn't join, right? Because there is a certain quality and certain elements of Freemasonry that they're not going to tell you until you're a member. What I try to do is live my life in such a manner and in such a way that when people look at me, even if they don't necessarily like and trust Freemasonry, they can like and trust me and know that it's kind of like the old wrestling quote, one of my favorite quotes, which is, I can't convince you that wrestling is real, but I can convince you that I'm real, right? I can't maybe convince you that Freemasonry is good, but I can convince you that I'm good. And if I can convince you of that, and if the Masons that you speak to in your life, including those that you are, applying to join with, your sponsors, the Masons you meet in lodge, if they give you a good feeling and you trust them, then it's worth taking that leap of faith. If for whatever reason you don't trust them, you don't trust me, which you don't have to, there's no rule that says you have to trust me, then maybe you shouldn't join. And which is fine as well. That's completely okay. But there is always going to be a certain quality of a leap of faith to it. And maybe once you're a Mason, you just find, despite the fact that I trust Cameron, I like my brothers, there was nothing, dangerous or nefarious about the ceremonies, but it's just not for me. There's nothing wrong with walking away, but there is a certain quality where you have to trust the people. You have to trust the lodge members. You have to trust the Masons who are putting on the ceremony, and that trust needs to be developed before you join. Really, it should be developed um, before you even put in your application, to be honest. It needs to be developed at a very early stage of the process. Um, well, I'm going to assume you mean please in the Plutonic sense. And yes, our goal in Freemasonry is to ensure that we are supporting our brothers, um, and in various ways. Brotherly love, relief, and truth. Um, all right, Sam Cooke. By the way, Sam Cooke, one of the greatest singers of all time. Um, I used to listen to his stuff all the time. One of my favorite songs is Bring It On Home to Me, which is an incredible song featured in the Adventures in Babysitting soundtrack. That'd be a good question I should ask people. Ask Masons. Would you consider joining Freemasonry to be a leap of faith? Yes or no? It's all about brotherly love, Biscuits. It's all about brotherly love. I hope I've been answering your questions well. Please, once again, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe button. Let me know how you guys are doing. So, interesting enough, Freemasons in the United... it depends. We have two types of meetings, Balls. We have our administrative meetings, sometimes called business meetings, but I'm not a big fan of that term because we're not doing any business. But we have our administrative meetings where we talk about like lodge functioning, whether it's bills we have to pay, correspondence we've received, charity. There's a million different things, right, that comes into it. And then we also have our ceremonies where we, bring brethren through the lodges. So Freemasons launch legal action against Metropolitan Police. The United Grand Lodge of England, also acting on behalf of the Order of Women Freemasons and the Honorable Fraternity of Ancient Freemasons, all of which together represent Freemasonry in England, Wales, the Isle of Man, and the Channel Islands, announced that it has sent a letter before claim in respect of judicial review proceedings against the Metropolitan Police in response to the Met's announcement on 11 December 2025 that it has added Freemasonry to its list of declarable association. The result of the Met's new decision is that police officers and police staff who are or have been Freemasons will be compelled to inform the Met of their membership, and this will now be a mandatory declaration in its vetting procedures. While acknowledging recent concerns over police vetting procedures, UGLE considers this decision to be unlawful, unfair, and discriminatory against Freemasons, and considers the consultation process which has been followed by the Met to be wholly inadequate, prejudicial, and unjust. UGLE has made clear its concerns to the Met regarding any intended action to introduce a reporting requirement that has the potential to undermine public credibility of male and female Freemasons, or that could impact negatively on its members or the contribution that they make to society. It believes that mandatory declaration breaches the fundamental rights of the organization and their members, and is also a breach of Equality Act 2010 and UK JDPR. Res Tuber, would it matter if I was Jewish or not? Freemason welcomes men of all different ethnicities. Kevin Dickerson, I am the smartest man in the world. Please hit like and describe. I have no idea what Agartha is, so I cannot access Agartha. Balls, that is something I choose not to say. You can honestly find it online, but I'm not going to tell you. For that, you got to hit you got to join, at least for me. You, extraordinary, you just accept the fact that, well, so you have to be careful with the term troll, right? Like, for example, I don't think like Vi Victi, for example, I don't think Vi Victi is a troll. I define troll as somebody who is going on stream and saying things that they don't believe or they don't care about just to get a rise out of you, either to annoy the person streaming or to just because they're bored or whatever it is. So, a troll may go on and start saying a whole bunch of stuff about how much they, hate a certain race of people, they hate black people, whatever it is, not because they didn't even necessarily believe that, just because they find it funny to be racist online and they know it's going to annoy the person. Um, and the way I deal with those people is I'll usually put them in timeout pretty quickly. I won't ban people from the channel. I don't think I've ever banned anybody yet, but I'll usually put them in timeout pretty quick. The reason I don't ban them is because if I'm on this stream to talk about Freemasonry, then even if somebody is trolling, presumably they're listening, and if I ban them, they'll never hear anything I say again. And I want them to at least hear what I say about Freemasonry. Um, um, if it's people who, for example, somebody who, let's say, they genuinely believe that Freemasonry is a Jewish conspiracy to take over the world. That's what they genuinely believe, and they start to put that stuff in the chat. I don't believe they're trolling. I think they're wrong. I know they're wrong based on all my experiences, but I don't believe they're trolling. In that case, I try to leave them be a little bit longer. However, if it starts to like overwhelm the chat to the point where you know they get it's like 10 comments from them for every one from somebody else, or I keep giving my answer and they keep repeating the same question, or if they start to interact with other people on the chat. Like a couple days ago, one person on the chat was calling another person on the chat a clown show, and they started going back and forth in the chat, which drives me crazy. Then I will put one or both in a timeout. But I think ultimately the way I deal with it is I kind of made a deal with myself when I started doing this. I knew that for better or worse, there was going to be a lot of people jumping onto the stream who were either going to be trolling or going to be incorrect. And if I'm doing this to try to turn my passion for Freemasonry into a profession, then turning it into a profession means being professional. And that means being respectful of the people who are on the stream, whether I agree with them or not. And also, if it's a one-time statement, I tend not to take it too seriously. So every now and then, I'll get a whole bunch of people on stream pointing out I have a big nose and a big forehead and an ugly face. I tend to just laugh it off and ask them to like and subscribe. I'm not going to take it too seriously. Um, um, and so that is kind of, I guess, the way I deal with it. But I also accept the fact that for better or worse, it just is what it is. It's part of being on stream. Well, I don't know if 6-7 is nasty. Again, if somebody comes on the stream one time and says 6-7, and I never see them again, I don't really care about that one way or the other. I usually will just say please like and subscribe and be done with it. If they are constantly streaming or constantly writing 6-7, 6-7, 6-7, 6-7, that will get annoying, and then I'll put them in timeout. What are your minimum requirements? So you cannot create a Masonic group without first being a Freemason yourself. Well, let me rephrase, Aristotle. You can create whatever group you want. I mean, if you wanted to, you could I don't know if you have a garage, but you could go and put a sign on your garage saying Aristotle 1234's Masonic Lodge meets the first Friday of every month. Put a square and compasses on it. In theory, the square and compasses are usually trademarked, but good luck having anybody actually take you up on trademark infringement. And then just see what happens. The problem is that group won't be recognized, so whoever joins your Aristotle Masonic Lodge won't be able to attend any other Masonic lodges. It won't be recognized, and so you'll have people joining your group and then trying to visit a lodge somewhere else and being denied admittance because it wouldn't be a legitimate Masonic organization. You can start whatever you want. I mean, they would be called clandestine. But if you want to start a officially recognized Masonic group, what you need to do is first become a Mason in a Masonic lodge that is already in existence. Then you would need to get 7 other members of that lodge or any within the area interested in starting their own Masonic lodge, and then you petition your local Grand Lodge to charter your own lodge. So it's a process. If you want to meet once a year, it'd probably be denied because, like, how would you bring in new members? How would you do business? I don't know how that would work. You'd be better off joining an existing Masonic lodge and then trying to create a special event therein that's a once a year thing, or a special club within the larger body that does a once a year thing. Like maybe it goes to camp once a year or something, which can happen. There's, for example, a Masonic camp that meets once a year. It's not a separate body, rather it is existed from Masonic lodges. I think it's in Colorado. I could be mistaken. So there's a Masonic camp where every year a bunch of Masons gather in cabins and basically spend a week learning about Freemasonry. Santa would be pagan. Some say Christmas is pagan. I mean, I think Christmas has some pretty significant Christian roots, obviously. I'm not saying there weren't pagan symbols that were adopted, but it's very hard for me as a Freemason to judge any religion, or any group, I should say, adopting symbols from other bodies, since we in Freemasonry stole, pick your term, a lot of symbols from a lot of different groups. So you can take that for, I'm not going to judge. There's an old expression, good poets borrow, great poets steal. Good groups borrow ideas, great groups steal ideas. What is the Sunday meeting, which I missed? I'm very sorry about that. I don't think so, Mike. I mean, I think Santa, he was St. Nicholas, right? He was a German initially. Like, the figure on which good old Saint Nick was based, I think, if I recall correctly, was a German gentleman. I could be mistaken. ZC14, thank you for being here. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. I am 16 subs away from 3,100 subscribers. Well, so Masonite isn't the term. It's Mason or Freemason. I've never heard the term Masonite. Probably not. But there is some people who think he was. He was certainly friends with a lot of Freemasons, and we know that to be the case. Right? He's strongly associated with the formative years. I don't think he was. We don't know for sure. He was part of the Royal Society, and a lot of Masons were also members of the Royal Society. What's my idea of usury? Usury is, I don't know if, let me just double check the definition of it. So my, view on charging of interest is fine. People take out loans, they charge interest. That's how banks work. That's how it all works. That's perfectly fine. But usury, to my understanding, is charging exorbitant or illegal interest rates, which I think is not good. I don't think we should ever charge. I think there should be a cap on how much interest you can charge on a loan. Well, interest and usury are not the same thing, right? Usury is a type of interest. It's an illegal type of interest where it's higher than what is allowed, either morally or legally. Jim Rat, good afternoon. Kate Piccolo, hello. I mean, Vi Victe, I wish you best of luck. I would warn you, it's getting harder and harder to create or maintain any organizations or societies in 2025. Everybody's struggling with that now, but we're working on it. So, not the Thule Society, but Freemasonry, we're working on trying to grow it once again. We'll see how it goes. But if you can create an organization and it brings you peace and comfort, then good for you. I'm one of those people. I think Freemasonry benefits when we have a strong civic society. Um, I don't know enough about Thule. I've heard of it, but I mean, to me, it just seems like kind of a pagan god. Which, if that's what you wish to worship, um, why must anything oppose anything else? Why can't we all just get along? Not that I'm, believe in Jewish mysticism either, but if, why must things be in opposition to one another? Kate, thank you for saying that. I hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button, Kate. Most people think my nose is too big. Why is Freemasonry associated with Satanism? A lot of conspiracy theories that the internet has allowed to take off. And there's also this hoax in I can't think of the year. I think it was 1890 called the Leo Taxil hoax as well. So, which basically this gentleman claimed that Freemasons were engaged in satanic rituals. It turned out to be a hoax, but it, spread like wildfire. The Catholic Church got a hold of it, became a whole thing. Interest, capital chases efficiency. Not always. I think one thing we're finding, and this is just me speaking for myself, is it seems that capital is not always following efficiency, at least not the type of efficiency that we would want in society. For example, in healthcare, it's incredibly efficient to deny coverage to people and just let them pass away, from lack of treatment. At least in the short term, it's incredibly efficient. But I don't want my capital going that direction. Efficiency is a tough thing to measure, right? Like, if let's take nuclear weapons for example. I am very happy if if nuclear weapons facilities are not staffed in a quote unquote efficient manner, but are staffed in a protective manner, which means I'm very happy in let's say, a nuclear facility to have a safety officer and then a backup safety officer and then a backup to the backup. And even if the backup to the backup never actually has to do anything except sit in a room and wait for the other two people to not show up and then have to do something, I'd still rather pay him to be there than not. And maybe it's not efficient, but I don't care about efficiency because there might be a 1 in a million time where you really need a safety officer and a 1 in a million time when the two ahead of him aren't available. And in that case, I'm very happy to pay somebody inefficiently because in that moment it stops being inefficient. What are my thoughts on Christianity? Well, Freemasonry welcomes men of all different faiths, including Christianity. I'm actually trying to reread the Bible. I've never read the full thing, but trying to read the Bible because I want to be more conversant in religious faith. But I think we in Freemasonry welcome men of all different faiths, as we should. And I know many Christian Freemasons, and I'm proud to call them my brothers. He did. I don't know how I feel about that. I've never done any drugs except for those which are prescribed to me. And in those cases, I do them, in a manner as prescribed. Having said all of that, I don't know how I feel about his decision because I've read some things that indicate there's a level of lobbying and corruption behind the decision. Maybe Jim Rat, but I think we should try to be more positive. Let's have faith. But having said that, a low probability event is still 100% probability event over a long enough timeline. So if something is a low probability event, but you have millions of years or thousands of years or hundreds of years for it to happen, then eventually it very likely will happen. That's the danger, I think, of nuclear weapons. It's like, just because it's unlikely to happen, if we always have that possibility, then there's always a possibility that it will happen. I do believe, and this was an interesting thing I was thinking about recently. I don't know if anybody watched A House of Dynamite on Netflix. Great movie. Really enjoyed it. There was this one scene where a defense, it was like the Undersecretary of Defense or something. So I'll give you guys, I guess, a little bit spoiler alert. A House of Dynamite, the whole story, the whole movie is the United States detects a missile in the Pacific traveling to America, and it's projected to hit Chicago. And they believe it's a nuclear weapon, and they don't know who shot it. All they know is they are seeing it traveling over the ocean, and it's going to hit Chicago in like 20 minutes. And they have 20 minutes to figure out what to do or how to respond. And anyways, there's this one scene where the under Secretary of Defense or something is trying to figure out what to do, and he gets a phone call from the Russian defense minister. And they're basically talking back and forth, and the Russian defense minister says, look, it wasn't me, it wasn't Russia, Russia didn't do this. The Russians are obviously terrified that America is going to retaliate against Russia or anybody else and just blow them all up, in which case Russia will have to respond with their nuclear weapons. And basically everybody's terrified that they're looking at the end of the world. In fact, one of the Undersecretary of Defense at one point in the phone conversation says, look, if we get this wrong, everybody's dead tomorrow because the nuclear weapons go off, and that's the ball game. But that made me think, what if the Undersecretary of Defense and the Russian defense minister, what if they were both Freemasons? And what if they both knew that they were Freemasons? Would that have created a greater level of trust? Would that have made communications easier? I have no idea, but it got me thinking just about international relationships in general, to the extent that you can have Masons. If you had more Freemasons in government, more Freemasons engaged in these negotiations, would that create better outcomes, higher trust, etc., etc.? I mean, there's maybe some evidence for yes, but there's also evidence for no. Most famously, George Washington and King George were both Freemasons, did not stop the Revolutionary War from happening. So who knows? But I always thought that was a really interesting idea. I mean, as a general rule, Jim Rat, I don't think anything good long term will come from nuclear weapons. I think nuclear technology is very good, especially nuclear power. But it comes with the nuclear weapons, and I think that's incredibly bad. And yeah, I'm not comfortable with certain people having them. And the problem is, I don't know what the solution to it is. I don't think anybody does. We're all kind of in this weird holding our breath phase. Maybe you could say we've been holding our breath since the nuclear weapon was first invented back in the day. It feels in some ways like the entire world is holding its breath. I think I remember your Sean hairline. Thank you for being back. I'll take it. Tyler Perry's a handsome fella. Kate, I assure you, you do not want to live in a world in which nuclear war is comfortable or is regular. It got me thinking, though, if there was a nuclear war, would Freemasonry survive? I know it seems like a weird question because at that point, what we're really worried about is the human race surviving. But it did get me thinking, would Freemasonry survive? Let's say we go from 8 billion to 3 billion people. I mean, they would be mostly busy trying to survive, trying to get food, trying to get shelter, trying to survive a nuclear winter. But would they find a way to try to maintain Freemasonry? Which, by the way, I think they should. You know, eating food is how we live, going to Masonic lodges is why we live. Just like art, just like poetry, we don't just need the gross mechanisms of living. We need to have a reason to live. We need to have ways to decorate the time in which we are alive. And Freemasonry is one way we decorate that time. Thank you, Sean. I greatly appreciate it. I greatly appreciate it. And if you want to, I hope you'll also consider doing a super chat. Even 99 cents helps big time. Sharing the stream, joining my Patreon, all that stuff helps out big time and would be greatly, greatly appreciated. I'm on the road to 3,100 subs, and I'm on the road to 4,000 watch hours through advertisements, which I can't wait. I may get there before the new year. That at least is my goal and something I would really love. Thank you, Jonathan. I really appreciate that. That's incredibly kind of you. I am going to be doing some member exclusive live streams also coming up. So please be prepared for those. Probably on Christmas Eve. The old question, to be one, ask one. If you're just becoming a member, what you need to do is find a local Masonic lodge in your area and speak to them. Now, I see Kate Piccolo, so I'm going to assume, and forgive me if I'm wrong, that you're female. You would need to look for either Eastern Star or the Order of Women Freemasons. Rohan, this channel is about Freemasonry. Please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button. Subscription to being a Freemason, is that what you mean, Balls? Or do you mean subscription to this channel? Because on Patreon, you can be a patron for anything from $3 a month to $50 a month, American. You can join the YouTube members for as little as $5 a month. To be a Freemason, it's not a subscription, it's a membership, but the cheapest one is $40 per year American. The most expensive is $175. Well, first, Kate, you got to join. You got to be a Freemason first. And you shouldn't start by wanting to pay your dues. You should start by wanting to be a Freemason, and you go from there. And you actually shouldn't even start with that. You should start with wanting to learn more about Freemasonry. That's the most important thing. And you kind of go from there. And if any lodge wants you exclusively for your dues, that is not cool. So you need to have a chat with them about that, because that's not what they should want you for, right? It's about you being a member, not just a wallet. Well, Kate, I've got a physical disability and I'm a Freemason. I'm missing both of my legs. I was born missing my legs, actually. So, no, you shouldn't be. So long as it's a legitimate lodge. If it's an illegitimate lodge, that's a whole other story. right? Freemasonry and Freemasons should not be discriminating against anyone. I mean, I use a wheelchair, so, and I'm still here, and I'm a Freemason. But for you, again, you need to look for Eastern Star or Order of Women Freemasons. I can do not a willy, I don't know what that is, but I can do a wheelie. Oh, see. But if I do this, I would like everybody to do a 99-cent super chat. Excuse me, Bandit. All right, here we go. I don't know how well you guys can see me, but there you go. Doing a wheelie. Everybody needs to do a 99-cent super chat in honor of the wheelie. Or maybe a dollar super chat even. Thank you. You have a Merry Christmas as well, Jonathan. I'm not, just keep in mind, I'm not signing off. I'm going to be doing more of these streams, so keep that in mind. We're not ending, but if I don't see you again before, please have a Merry Christmas. Oh, Jim Rat with the joke. That's no worries. I still appreciate you guys being here. Honestly, look, super chats are great and I'm grateful for them. However, that's just one of many ways to support the channel. There's a million ways to support it and support Square and Compass promotions in general. There's a million ways to support us completely for free. Liking, subscribing, commenting on other videos helps big time. Commenting on our social media posts help out that algorithm. Sharing our social media posts. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on, what's it called? We're on the thing, Twitter, X, Blue Sky. I'll take it. So long as I'm the best channel of any sort, I'll take it. Please take a moment, by the way, to hit the like and subscribe button. This makes me sick. And yeah, support my channel. All that good jazz. I might be, I might not be serious. I never say whether I'm gay or straight because Freemasonry, it does not matter whether you are gay or straight. Freemasonry does not discriminate, nor should it. So I no longer tell people. I'll let people think whatever they want. So long as they recognize I'm handsome, that's all I care about. I try to make fair points when I can. I don't always succeed. But yeah, and I hope, like I said, I think one of the things I've noticed is how many conspiracy theories, since I started this channel, how many Masonic conspiracy theories seem to focus so heavily on accusations of being gay or being Jewish or being gay and Jewish. There's a lot of anti-Semitism and homophobia all tied into anti-Masonic thoughts, which I don't know why, but there you go. Well, yeah, and also because for me, if somebody accuses me of, and I use the term accuse because that's what it feels like on stream. If somebody accuses me of being gay and I immediately get defensive and say, no, I'm not, it feels like I'm almost jumping out of the way of all my friends who are gay, by trying to like distance myself from them, including my Masonic brothers. And by the same token, if I say, yes, I am, then I'm playing into the conspiracy theories because they're, claiming all of Freemasonry is. So the point is, I just don't answer the question anymore and let people think what they want. Which, in generally speaking, is a good approach to life. Let people think what they want. If you, in my experience, If you worry about what other people think, you're going to drive yourself crazy. Freemasonry is a civic group or a civil group or organization. Think about it like a social club, right? That was derived or founded from stonemason guilds in the Middle Ages. Well, it's not a secret group, Balls, right? Because obviously I'm here talking about it. So if it was a secret group, would I be able to talk about it? Our buildings are often labeled as Masonic temples. They often have um, they often have the square and compass symbol on them. They're available through Google Maps. Most lodges have websites. Shout out Richardson Lodge 136 and Moffat Lodge 399. Eureka, I'm happy to shout out those lodges. I hope they're doing well. Please hit like and subscribe. There are private elements to Freemasonry, but it's not the same as being secret, right? And the reason we have those private elements is because it's a way to maintain the bonds of brotherhood between past and future generations. If I start sharing all the private elements of our ceremonies and rituals, the problem is it makes it very hard. The bonds of brotherhood are no longer going to be as strong. By maintaining privacy, you maintain the bonds of your brotherhood. No different than having a family recipe. The reason you keep the family recipe private is to maintain the bonds between past, present, and future generations. What can I say? I love being on YouTube, No Filter Boss. Thank you for being here. I do not, extraordinary. I do not. They sound legit. But what I'll say is, it's kind of like saying if somebody came on and said, shout out John Smith. I don't know who they are, but I'll shout out John Smith. It's up to Masons themselves, not even Masons themselves, but if you're applying to be part of a Masonic Lodge, to ask the question, to which Grand Lodge are they being referred? No, you can join it. I mean, you just have to, to be one, ask one, right? So what you do is you go and you approach the lodges and you express your interest in joining them. But I mean, because don't forget, this is a Masonic podcast. We talk about Freemasonry. It's to promote the ways Freemasonry is and is not relevant it's about promoting the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located. But in this stream, I'm happy to talk to clandestine Masons. I'm happy to talk to irregular lodges. I'm happy to talk to Masons who, unrecognized. I'm happy to talk to everybody, right? I don't need to exclusively focus on recognized jurisdictions. I am against cult because cults require a lack of thinking and a desire for unquestioned loyalty, which I think is not a very healthy thing for society. Minotaur, I'm doing well. Hello again, Don Juan. So what does it mean? What do you do differently? See, that's one of those questions where, in some ways, Freemasonry is the most purest form of this. Like, what does a boys' night out mean? It means you go out. That's what Freemasonry is. We don't do things in the sense of we're not a knitting club, a sports team. We are ultimately a very incredibly formalized version of a guy's night out. Because Balls, Freemasonry has been around for about over 300 years, which means there are branches. That's human nature. Again, when Aristotle said man is a political animal, he didn't just mean we as Freemasons like to form groups. Within those groups, we form additional groups of additional interests, and things just kind of branch out. It's kind of like professional wrestling. Why are there so many different professional wrestling companies? Why isn't there just one? Why is there so many different types of professional wrestling? Sometimes it's cultural, sometimes it's there's disputes and people go their own ways. Sometimes there's different types, like Freemasonry wanted to include families, so they started youth groups to allow Masons to get their kids involved in Freemasonry, right? Women want to be part of Freemasonry, so the Order of Women Freemasons was created. There's so many different ways Freemasonry can go. That's one of its greatest strengths. I mean, Prince Hall, right, was started as a response to bigotry in Freemasonry. So things just evolve, and when you don't have a single global, which is a strength, by the way, it's a strength of Freemasonry. But because there's not a single global entity that controls Freemasons, it allows Freemasonry to branch off in a variety of different paths and ways. Sometimes those paths are successful. Sometimes they kind of wither, but you get to try it. You get to try different things. That's a beautiful thing. So Sirius, why should I choose it? What does it I mean, honestly, I can't really answer that question, Sirius, because I talked about it before. Joining is a leap of faith. Like, it's almost like me telling you, hey, you should listen to this song. I think you'll like it. And then you ask me, well, can you play it for me? And I say, well, no. You just got to trust me. Like, I can tell you why I joined it. I can tell you what I get from it. But that's not going to be the same thing as why you might want to join and what you might get from it. It kind of really is a leap of faith. Like, if you want to meet new people, Freemasonry is a great place to do that. But it's not the one place to do that, but it is a great place to do that. If you want to develop certain skills as it relates to things like running meetings, administration, even memorization work, if you want to potentially join something that can provide you with a kind of social safety net. So if you are ever struggling in life, there's a place you can go for benevolence. Like, there's a lot of, if you have family who are Freemasons, if you like the idea of being part of a historical organization, those are all reasons to choose it. But at the end of the day, there is a leap of faith quality to being a Freemason. You just have to trust, or to joining, you just have to trust that the Masons that you've met, myself included, are good people and are leading you in the right direction. If you feel like we're not, though, you don't have to, right? There's no reason to choose Freemasonry outside of a leap of faith and a belief that it's something that you will enjoy. I would say, one thing is, if you do enjoy history and if you enjoy kind of team sports or teamwork, you'll probably get a lot out of Freemasonry. Also, if you're a curious person, I find you tend to get a lot out of Freemasonry. Curiosity and open-mindedness tend to do really well for Freemasons. Serious, I'm trans and gay. I mean, it depends where you are. Like I said, the United Grand Lodge of England welcomes trans members, as it should. I would welcome any trans man into my lodge without question, without issue. I've never, and Freemasonry does not discriminate against gay people. At least I've never seen it discriminate. That's not to say there aren't Freemasons who may be discriminatory, because unfortunately, Freemasons are humans. We have all the prejudices within us that anybody else can have. But hopefully Masonic philosophies pushes against those prejudices. Serious. I mean, I joined because my dad was a Mason. And so I always assumed sooner or later I would join. And when I had some time and realized I'd be staying in Canada, or sorry, staying in Windsor, Ontario for a while, I decided to do it. And even for me, even though I had my dad who was a Freemason and I kind of grew up around it and I saw it and what it did for people, I still I still took a bit of a leap of faith because there were things I didn't know and couldn't know until I joined. So a year's a bit of a long time, Minotaur. Usually in North America, it's a minimum wait period of a month. But I don't think there's anything wrong with making guys wait a year. I think that's perfectly fine. Is there a secret tunnel? Some lodges are old enough, or some Masonic buildings are old enough. I bet you money that there is a secret tunnel. I've never seen a secret tunnel in any of the buildings I've been part of, but it wouldn't shock me if there were. Some of these buildings are so old. Um, well, the ring, I mean, not every Mason has a ring, not every Mason gets a ring. It was a very common thing back in the day to purchase or have a Masonic ring, but you don't need to get it. This square and compasses in the middle, the symbol, it just stands for being a Freemason. It's a way to demonstrate that you are a Freemason. However, I'd point out nobody should ever assume that just because you have a ring, or nobody should ever assume that just because somebody's wearing a ring that they're automatically a Freemason. Right? That's not how it works. Um, you can purchase rings without being a Freemason. You can get rings from family members and not be a Freemason. Just because someone's wearing a ring, it doesn't automatically mean they're a Freemason. You need to be really careful about that and take your time to speak to them. 30-second? Awesome. So we went pretty far. No, I think Freemasonry, if it's practiced appropriately, is anti-bigotry. Can't speak for every Mason, though. And even the trans thing, I can't speak for every Masonic jurisdiction. I know some do exclude trans members. I just don't know off the top of my head which ones. The biggest one doesn't, though, UGLE. And I think that's one of the reasons why I greatly admire UGLE for their work on that area. And they were way ahead of the curve too. They came out with their policy in like 2018 to their credit, which is, I think, before any other Masonic lodges had said anything. Of course they do, Minotaur, as they should, as they should. Yeah, UGLE's done a lot of good stuff. I actually did a podcast interview with a Mason out of London, who marched in the London Pride Parade to his credit. So, and to UGLE's credit, he didn't march on his own. He marched as part of United Grand Lodge of England. You can make a complaint about me to whomever you so choose, Piccolo, Kate Piccolo. But I hope that won't stop you from also hitting the like and subscribe button. But you are welcome to make any complaints you want. Keep in mind, I always say this, I do not speak for Freemasonry. I speak for me. I speak for myself and my own views on Freemasonry. A Grand Lodge is the governing body for Freemasonry in an area. Um, so there is no the Grand Lodge because there is no single governing body. Rather, Grand Lodges exist in different jurisdictions. So in Ontario, our Grand Lodge is responsible for administering Freemasonry within Ontario. Um, um, in Manitoba, it's Manitoba, whatever it might be. Well, you got the channel. You can just copy and paste the URL or just use my photo. Justice, welcome, Mason. Thank you for being here. I don't know if you've done so or not, but if you haven't, please hit like and subscribe. I'm 16 subs away from 3,100 subs, which would be awesome. If I could get that before Christmas, that would be incredible, to be honest. But from whence are you a Mason, good sir? Or I could say ma'am as well. There are Freemasons who are both male and female. I shouldn't forget that. Snitches get stitches, says Todd Wilson. Interestingly enough, I did used to work in a jail, not as a security guard or as a correctional officer, but I worked for years as a rehab officer. No, Freemasonry is not political balls. Freemasonry is not political, so there will be no political party within Freemasonry. I mean, there are left wing, right wing Freemasons, whatever. It's interesting. One of the rules of Freemasonry is we're not allowed to discuss religion or politics while in lodge, which is really, I think, a valuable thing. I think we're so inundated with politics in 2025 and really the last century, the last decade, that that having a safe place where you do not discuss politics or religion is a really good thing. Can you hit the like and subscribe button? And please don't forget to consider that super chat button. And for the record, I represent nothing and no one other than myself and Square and Compass Promotions. All opinions are my own. Well, I mean, not anything, right? Because we can't discuss religion, we can't discuss politics. Those are two things that are forbidden. And obviously, whatever we're talking about, hopefully, has some type of connection to why we are there. So, for example, if it's a business or an administrative meeting, we're going to talk about, for example, correspondence, minutes, events we have coming up. Maybe we'll do some Masonic education where we'll talk about like the history of the craft. But I do think one thing in Freemasonry that we've kind of made a mistake with is sometimes we have become far too limited in what we talk about. Like, for example, one of my most fond Masonic memories is I was at a lodge meeting and they set aside, half an hour at the meeting for an educational presentation. And the presentation was actually how to create balloon animals. What they did is one of the brothers loved to make balloon animals. So he brought a whole bunch of balloons, a pump, and he taught us how to make different balloon animals. I think one of them was like a dog, one of them was like a giraffe or something. That has nothing to do with Freemasonry, but that has everything to do with Freemasonry because it was about brotherly love. It was about a brother saying, this is something that interests me, and therefore I think it will interest you as well. Entertaining us, whatever it was. I thought that was really, really cool. So I do think sometimes in Freemasonry, we, with the exception of politics and religion, which is what's the word I'm looking for? Which should never be talked about. Freemasons never discuss politics or religion in lodge. I'm 100% a believer that we should be willing to expand our meetings to include more fun topics, if that means anything, more enjoyable topics, more interesting topics, and what interests the brothers, right? Well, I think Kate Todd Wilson is calling me a rat. So be it. Do you all have debates? I mean, sure. Within within a lodge, you can have debates. It all depends on, like, so it means the debate should obviously always be respectful, but yes, unfortunately, Michael Christopher, my channel is a lot still smaller. Michael Christopher, you can help people. Um, you can help people find it by liking, subscribing, doing a super chat, all that good jazz. Um, yes, I'd agree with Brother Courtney 100% on that. Um, But you can, I mean, Masons can disagree. The key is making sure the disagreements are respectful, right? That's the most important thing. But you know, one lodge member may want to spend, I don't know, money on one project, like, I don't know, building a new addition to their Masonic building, and another brother may want to spend it on a banquet. And you have the debate about what's the best approach to take, and then the lodge votes, and you go from there. Right now, Josh, I see 8 people in the chat, sadly. So I wish there was more, but that's okay. Um, you know, it's still an honor to have, whether it's one person or 33 likes, 34 likes now. Well, Kate, I will say, Todd, there's no calling anybody a rat on the stream. Kate is welcome to do whatever, I'm going to say she because the name Kate, so desires. If you want to send an email, go ahead. We don't insult other people on the chat. And Kate is welcome to do whatever Kate so chooses. I don't know if Kate is a Freemason. There is, again, the Order of Women Freemasons out of, calm down, Kate. You too. Talk to me. Don't talk to people on the stream. There is the Order of Women Freemasons. They're very prominent out of England, although they do exist also in Ontario and other places around the world. There's also Eastern Star. I don't know if Kate could be a username, it could be a man. You don't always know somebody's gender just based on their username, right? Because sometimes they'll be using a different person's username or whatever it is. Well, you can talk to a Freemason if you're not 18, but you won't be able to be a Freemason until you turn 18. That's true in the States. Different jurisdictions have different age limits. You know, if you're under 18 and you want to learn more about Freemasonry, a great place to look is DeMolay, or Demol. I always pronounce it incorrectly, DeMolay, which is a Masonic youth group for young men ages, if I recall correctly, 11 to 21, but I might be getting that date wrong. In Canada, there's the closest DeMolay group to me, if I recall correctly, is London. Well, you are a human, Kate, so you are welcome to file a complaint. I'm not sure exactly to whom, since this channel, right, is expressly my own opinions, as I mentioned, but you can do whatever you so choose. Right? That's one of the things. If you're going to be online, and if you're going to be on stream, then you have to accept you're going to be dealing with people such as Kate Piccolo. And by the same token, Kate, you have to understand you're going to be dealing with people like Todd Wilson. The online space is, it is what it is, you know? It's unfortunate that that's the nature of online, but that's the nature of online. You know, I mean, a lot of people, I think, get tired of being online because they are worried about dealing with either it be the Kate Piccolos or the Todd Wilsons or the whomevers. But there's benefits to it as well. Without being online, I would not have met Brother Courtney. I would not have met a lot of great people that I've been very proud to meet. You have to deal with King Vi or Vi Victa. You have to deal with that as well. So unfortunately, I don't know any stone mason practices. I'm the worst at building anything. I wish I was better, to be honest. I wish we as Freemasons spent more time um, knowing those things or learning about those things, like how stonemasons worked. Freemasons, it's not about literally building anything, it's about spiritually building things, um, which is something that um, um, it's about metaphorically, it's about building yourself, right? It's about building yourself and building the community in metaphorical means. And the tools we use are brotherly love, relief, and truth. Well, Kate, I'm not going to apologize because I've not given any misinformation, at least to my knowledge. Now, I could be wrong about things, and it's very possible that I've been incorrect. I don't believe I've said anything incorrect during the stream or anything that is misinformation. What I will say is you are free to write any email you so desire, and you are welcome to do so. I will, though, give the general caveat that everything I say represents my own opinion. It does not represent Freemasonry, nor does it represent any Grand Lodge. Rather, what it represents is my own views and my own opinions on the craft. I try my best to be factually correct, but when I'm giving an opinion, it's just me giving an opinion. Aristotle, Kate is saying I'm spreading misinformation, but I'm not sure to what Kate is referring. Is the youth group like Freemason? Well, the youth group is part of Freemasonry. So either Demolay or Rainbow, they are part of the Masonic family. My name is Cameron, but I don't like to share a bunch of stuff online. You can find it. Yes, a philosophical type of masonry these days is how you apply it. You know what, Kate? If you do want to, and you're welcome to do so, this is my email address, info@squareandcompass.ca. So that's my email, info@squareandcompass.ca, and you're welcome to send me an email and explain to me where you think I'm incorrect, and I can respond to you in an email about what it is you think I got wrong. And if you even wanted, I would send your email to my governing Masonic bodies. Okay, I understand. It's like, well, I mean, honestly, there's probably not a lot of men with the knowledge of the ancient building practices in 2025. There's plenty of men who know the modern building practices, like, modern technology for building. I don't know how many people could build buildings in the same manner that they did in ancient times, but you're not wrong in the sense, Patrick, that it's a shame that some of these ancient building techniques have been lost. There are some type of historians or archaeologists, though, who actually, it's really cool. They dedicate themselves to reintroducing ancient techniques to modern times, which I think is awesome, and good for them for doing it, Aristotle, I think Kate might just be someone who's struggling a little bit in life and is looking for some people to take it out on. And that's okay. If you're going to be online, the Kate Piccolos are a part of that. Eastern Star is I'm pretty sure Albert Speer was a monster, if it's the person I'm thinking of. You can be a good architect, or even a great architect, and a bad human being. I don't know anything about his architecture. You don't even know which lodge I'm part of. So Eastern Star is a female Masonic group. Well, it's so Eastern Star is it's oftentimes referred to as like Freemasonry for women. It's a Masonic group. It's part of the Masonic family. Initially and originally, it was exclusive for women who were related to Freemasons. You had to be the mother, the wife, the daughter, the sister of a Freemason to join. Um, and they are very much like any other Masonic body. They have rituals, memorization work. But then over time, I believe now you don't need to be related to join. But it's kind of like a lot of people would describe it very simply as Freemasonry for women. It's a little bit more than that. It's a little bit more expansive than that. That's a little bit too much of a minimum idea, but it is a wonderful organization and a very valuable part of the Masonic family. Um, Third degree, um, that is awesome. 6439. Welcome. Thank you for being here. We call it a craft because it goes back to stonemasonry, which is a craft, right? They're craftsmen. We evolved from stonemasons. We evolved from craftsmen. In the same way, you call a carpenter a craftsman. And also, there's a metaphorical sense. Freemasons, one thing that we do within Freemasonry is we are metaphorical craftsmen. We build ourselves and the community. And Brother Courtney, I'm very glad that Freemasonry has helped you live a better life. You're a great man. You're a good man. I'm proud that you're a friend. I'm proud that you're a brother. And I'm sure you're going to continue to have great success. Well, I mean, in some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I think by default, you're always representing your lodge. In the same way, like if you're a member of a sports team, you're always representing your sports team. So, if you go on stream and you say, like, let's say you play for the, I don't know, San Francisco 49ers, and you go on a podcast and you say a bunch of stuff, even if you say, I speak exclusively for myself, people may still choose to connect what you say to the San Francisco 49ers. And that's just the way it is, and that's one of the risks you take. But having said that, Freemasons have the right to talk about things and express themselves as they see fit. Even if I was on here talking about my favorite scary movies, in theory, if someone knew I was a Freemason, they could still, tie whatever my scary movies opinions are to Freemasons. But that's just the nature of it, right? But I always try to remember to myself, well, they don't pick and choose what I say. I'm free to think and say whatever I please. It's more, it's more people, if they know I'm a Freemason, may connect what I say to the Masonic Lodge, which is why I'm always really careful when I'm talking, especially if I'm giving an opinion about politics or religion or anything that's not Masonic related, to really clearly express that I speak for myself exclusively, not for Freemasonry. But you can't help the way people respond to things. And it's not my responsibility to do that either. So. Yeah, Kate, you're getting a little bit annoying. I may put you in timeout in a second. You're welcome to be here, but you seem to be getting a little bit challenging. Yeah, we can talk about Freemasonry, but we can't reveal any secrets. And we can give our opinions about it as well. Right? And again, to join Freemasonry to a certain extent, all right, well, calm down, Aristotle. I'm saying a man can speak his own mind. What I'm saying, though, is if I'm a Freemason and people know I'm a Freemason, whatever I say and however I act may reflect upon the craft. And that is something I think about just in my day-to-day life. Like if I'm wheeling down the street and I see a piece of garbage on the road, or piece of trash, part of me thinks if I don't pick it up and I leave it there and somebody sees me leave it there and knows I'm a Freemason, will that reflect badly on the staff? Will that reflect badly on the craft? In the same way, if I'm on stream, whenever I'm talking, I do try to remember that to a certain extent, at least, I recommend free. I represent Freemasonry, and I want to try my best to represent it in a positive light. I can say whatever I want, but I need to be respectful of that. And that's no different than when I worked in the jail, right? When I worked in the jail, people knew it, and I understood what I do in my personal life. You know, people may see that if I'm out in public acting a fool, they may know I, work for the government, I get taxpayer dollars, and that may reflect negatively upon public servants. So you need to think about all that stuff. No, I won't. But if I do see a piece of garbage and it's in my ability to pick it up and it doesn't inconvenience me, or, everything's just a balance, right? Everything's just a balance in life. I'm not going to pick up every piece of garbage, but by the same token, I may be more inclined to pick up a piece of garbage if I can, and if I'm not risking my life to go into traffic or something. I think the point, Aristotle, is we need to think, and this isn't just true for Freemasonry, this is true for anything, you know, we need to understand to a certain extent, if we're part of an organization or part of a group or have a job, we do not simply represent ourselves, we represent the broader context. Even when I travel, I feel like to a certain extent I'm representing Canada. So the reason I try to be extra nice, extra polite, extra kind, or not even extra, but just I try to always be polite, respectful, kind when I'm traveling is not simply because I'm representing Freemasonry, but it's because I'm representing Canada as well. And so, yeah, that's also why, if I'm traveling to another country, I'm not going to badmouth the country necessarily. When I'm present, I want to set a good example as a Canadian, etc., etc. I think sometimes we in society are too quick to think that we represent exclusively ourselves and not ourselves plus others. For heaven's sakes, why do you have thousands of accounts? How little of a life must one have? You're not wrong, Aristotle. You're not wrong. That's true as well. And that is why I'm always trying to be extra, extra careful about representing, just being as clear as I can that when I speak for myself and my own opinion. But you're right. It's a tough balance to find. Everybody's, I think, is struggling to find that balance, right? Todd, it's a very challenging. I think social media in some ways has made it a lot harder for people to separate themselves personally from themselves, their own opinions from themselves in the world. She is definitely a troll, and my heavens, she has legitimately thousands of accounts. I'm curious how many. I'm genuinely curious how many of these Kate has. I mean, it helps me get views, so that's nice. But, it's a bit much. Well, sooner or later, you're going to run out. I'm going to be ending this stream pretty soon anyways. Yes, Enduropros. I can't pronounce that. 6439, which, by the way, please hit the like and subscribe button. Freemasonry isn't a secret society. It's a society with secrets. What I like to say, Ender, is Freemasonry is actually, it doesn't even have secrets. It has private elements. I think, unfortunately, in 2025, secrecy has become connected with more nefarious um, more nefarious, what's the word I'm looking for? Like nefarious motives. When people hear the term secret, they ascribe to it kind of nefarious or improper means, whereas there's very valid reasons to maintain the privacy of something, right? You can maintain privacy if you're a business for monetary reasons or for business reasons. You can maintain privacy for personal security, or you can maintain privacy because by maintaining privacy, you maintain the bonds of brotherhood between generations. And so, Ender, for me, the way I always describe it is Freemasonry and our secrets, quote unquote, or the private nature of our ceremonies is equivalent to a family recipe. If you have a family recipe, um, that gets passed down between your grandparents to your parents to you, and you want to pass it down to your kids, you're going to maintain the private elements of that recipe, or you're going to maintain the privacy of that recipe, not because the recipe is a secret or in a nefarious sense, but because by maintaining the private nature of the recipe, it maintains the bonds between the past, present, and future generations of the family members. And in the same way, within Freemasonry, maintaining the private nature of it, of the ceremonies, maintains the bonds of brotherhood between between past, present, and future generations. Yeah, Kate is being very challenging. Luckily, we're going to be ending the stream soon, anyways. I'm sure Kate will be back on here tomorrow. I'm sure I can find a way if I go to YouTube to get all of her accounts banned completely. And it's also about the discipline of keeping one's word. The beautiful thing about keeping one's word is Freemasonry helps you practice that, and by doing so, it helps you it helps you become a better person. You can't know for sure, but at one point Kate said she had thousands of accounts. It might be possible that she does. Who knows? If you have enough time and you're dedicated, you could probably create millions of accounts with sufficient technology. It does seem like she has thousands of accounts, that's for sure. Well, that's the reason, Balls. That's the one reason. It's not that I can't. I can, but I choose not to. And the reason is because of maintaining the bonds of brotherhood. That's why I choose not to talk about them. And that really is the exclusive reason. There's nothing about them that's nefarious, that's criminal, that's concerning, that harms anybody. Rather, the reason that I don't talk about them, and I'm speaking exclusively for myself, is to maintain the bonds of brotherhood, which to me is a very valid and valuable reason. Right, there is no other reason. I'd love to be there. Do you mean London, Ontario, 6439, or London, England? Because I was just in London, England. Those are all very valuable traits. They are Masonic traits, but they're not exclusively Masonic traits. I was just there about 3 months ago. I loved it. London, England is beautiful city, incredibly kind people. I had an absolute blast. We have Darth Viper. Well, I ain't apologizing because I'm not sure what I'm apologizing for. Thank you, Balls. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Well, I think we know who Darth Viper is. It's starting to feel that way, Aristotle. I feel like all these trolls are the same person. Hey, you're gonna be on YouTube, you gotta have a thick skin and you gotta put up with trolls. It's just part of it, for better or worse. Um, It's just part of, it's the price you pay for playing baseball, as the quote used to go. See, 1,000 accounts. Don't you have any time outside of creating accounts? The lady with 1,000 faces, indeed. All right, well, let's end this stream. It is impressive. I don't even know the amount of time it would I mean, I guess I say that with technology, you could probably write some type of program that would create some type of script that would help you create 1,000 accounts. If if she would subscribe to my channel with all of those accounts, that'd be very, very helpful. Abdul, Jesus is not God. Well, I mean, there are many Christian Freemasons who believe Jesus is part of the Trinity and God. There are many who are Muslim who believe the latter. Freemasonry does not discriminate based on religious beliefs, nor should it. It's one of the best parts about being a Freemason, and the thing I love most of all. I think one of the greatest actual statements ever on religious freedom and religious tolerance came from the Anderson Constitution of 1723 on the section called of God and of concerning God and religion. So if you've never read the Anderson Constitutions, they're available online. I think everybody should read them, but I especially think every Mason should read it. And I hope that you will check it out for sure. But yeah, concerning God and religion. All right, guys, this MTEE or MT, a lot of people were like that. MT, by the way, please hit like and subscribe. I mean, Freemasonry used to be much more quote unquote quiet, is a term I would use. And what that meant is Masons were much less inclined to talk about it, including even to their family and to their brothers. To their family, to their kids. I know my dad was a Freemason, and he talked about it much more, to me, than his father talked to him about it. But Freemasonry, the most basic explanation is Freemasonry is a civic or civil institution, a social club and a social group that has existed since at least 1717, June 24th, 1717, or potentially 100 years earlier. And Michael Christopher is not wrong. Thank you, and Drew, I'd love to come to your first if I could. I mean, traveling to England is not cheap, but we'll see what I can do. I'll private message you to see if you can invite to the ceremony. And Michael Christopher is not wrong. I mean, especially in Europe, especially in Nazi Germany, for example, there was a lot of fear and distrust against Freemasons, a lot of prejudice against them as well. So that did then encourage Masons to be more quiet about it, but that ultimately was not, that was a dangerous thing as well. Is the more quiet we got, it gave more strength to the anti-Masonic forces. I think the best way to deal with anti-Masonic ideas is to be louder ourselves and to be more willing to express what it is we love about Freemasonry, right? Being quiet ourselves is not going to encourage the anti-Masons to be quiet. It's going to encourage them to get louder. Yeah, the old charges are wonderful and are a major part of being a Freemason. I suggest every Mason take the time to study the old charges. I think the two most important are the Regius poem and the Anderson Constitution. Start with those and then work your way forward. Interestingly enough, the Anderson Constitution was the first Masonic book printed in the United States. It was a reprint done by Brother Ben Franklin, which I thought was really cool. All right, guys. We are going to be ending this stream. By the way, Brother Courtney, I mailed your, well, Michael Christopher, you can find both the Regius poem and the Anderson Constitutions online. They're actually all both the original documents, but also the translation into modern English. So you can find them online. I'd recommend you check them both out. It's well worth a read. They're not very long either. Chaos Theory, indeed. They are in the Dummies book. By the way, Dummies book, a great one to start. Freemasonry for Dummies. You are welcome, Michael Christopher. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for being here. I will be back on at 1 a.m., but for now, I'm taking a little bit of a break. Have an excellent night. Hit like, hit subscribe. I'll talk to you all soon.